And so Dennis is doing the intro because Dennis is the guy.
You're the guy too. We are a team.
You're the guy.
But we are here. Brian Kachinsky, Unclicked Season 3. Is this officially a rail podcast, Brian Kachinsky podcast, or a hybrid of the both?
So I, as we talked about, I want to do kind of different episodes, not just the straightforward interviews. Brian's in town. Brian actually comes to San Diego somewhat regularly, like 4 or 5 times a year, it seems like. Yeah. So I figured we could do a episode solely focused on rails, and then we can do a full Kachinsky. It'll be like a warm-up Kachinsky podcast, but next time he comes out to San Diego, we'll do another one.
Cool. So we won't get too in-depth on his life and everything. We're going to just talk to a rail god about rails.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Lord of Rails.
Well, we can at least ask why are you in San Diego, though, because that's kind of cool.
Yeah,
before we lead into the...
And thanks for having me on. I think it's awesome that you guys have kind of like restarted this and kept it going, but I know you had to take some breaks here and there, but I think it's really an awesome thing you guys have going on. So
thanks. We're hyped and
being a part of
hyped to have you come over.
Thanks.
Why are you here?
I'm in San Diego, sort of. Well, my wife had a work trip, so she was had a big kind of work ceremony where she was getting inducted into basically kind of the governing body of surgery. So she's a doctor, she's a surgeon, and she had gotten accepted into this sort of like, I don't know how to say it, maybe a society. I described it as a fraternity at one point in time, but that's not correct. It's more of a,
she probably
just
hated
a professional network, and she got inducted into that. And so that was like a big celebration on, last week. And then this week she's just been going to conferences and learning how to be a better surgeon. So in the meantime,
what kind of surgeon is she?
General surgeon. So she does kind of a little bit of everything. She does essentially anything from like the neck down to, say, the waist or knee or something like that, but with some exceptions in between. But she's not, she doesn't do like brain or heart or things like that, but she's she's trained in a lot of different things, so it's kind of a grab bag.
That's amazing.
It's a lot
she's
of
like an elite surgeon now too. Like she's not just a normal, she's getting boosted up into this society that you're talking about.
Right, yeah, and she has some really complex specialties, kind of like riding, where like people are really highly specialized in certain things. She is too in putting people back together. So it's pretty cool. It's really
dope.
inspiring. It's really inspiring, and I feel like I learn something every single day just by asking her a million questions. So it's kind of funny now when I go to the doctor and I describe, like, they're like, oh, what's wrong with you today? And I start describing my symptoms. They look at me and they're like, are you in medicine? And I, just based on the vocabulary I use and stuff like that. And I'm like, no, I'm like just sort of by default just around it, So but yeah, it's nice. Always nice to visit here. The last time we were out here, I didn't even bring my bike because it was going to be too intense with the family and all the stuff we had to pack and whatever. And once we conquered that, we got that trip out of the way, and we were like, okay, next time I can bring my bike and we'll have enough room and make it happen. So,
hell yeah.
So you got the whole family and 2 kids?
Yep, 2 kids.
What are their names again?
Luna and Cameron.
All
so
right.
Luna's the youngest. She's 1.5 years, and Cameron's 3. So
and
3
that's
and
the
1.5.
name of Mike Escamilla's daughter as well, isn't it?
Yeah, actually that inspired us, but it also was one of Cameron's first words.
Oh, okay.
He pointed up at the moon and he's like, Luna, Luna. And
oh,
he
wow.
hadn't really spoke many words previous to that, but we exposed him to English and Spanish at home. So that was one of his first words.
Cool.
So we were like, yeah, let's do that. That makes sense.
Nice.
And you are just recently back on the bike.
Yeah.
So speaking of rails, one got you.
One got me, and that was about it was mid-August. So it was a little while ago now, and I took the full time to heal, and it was because it was a serious injury. It was a compression fracture of my T12 vertebrae. So it was. You picture the spine, you picture like compressing it. I kind of landed like a panda bear, where you sit down and you just compress. But I was going fast, and I was going like landing from high up. So it was one of those things that happened. I knew it hurt. I kind of laid in bed for a couple days, and I was like, I need to get this x-rayed. And it was a compression fracture, but they didn't need to do any sort of interventional stuff, no surgery, no anything like that. They just said, it's in there, it's contained, but it's broken, so don't F around. Yeah, to kind of like, lay low, don't carry anything heavier than a milk jug, and, for the next 8 weeks or so. And so I obeyed doctor's orders, and it's feeling much better. I wouldn't say it's feeling 100% because leading up to my basically when I got back on my bike, I wasn't going to start doing huge drops or anything like that. So I've mostly been riding transition, but yesterday was probably my second day in the streets since that
yeah.
happened. So it's feeling pretty good today. I was surprised.
Is that how has your streak with kind of injuries? You know, I know you've dealt with the ACLs and stuff over the years, but I feel like the recent times street injuries have been pretty minimal overall. Or
Yes and no. I sometimes like maybe don't announce them when they happen, but yeah, I've had like these little setbacks, like things that happen where you're out for a week or two or something like that. But yeah, luckily I've been pretty good. I think half of that is just taking more calculated risks and deciding like when's the right time, when's not the right time, and so it's been pretty good. Although I do feel like there has been like little things adding up. Like I do feel like there's been kind of a lot of little setbacks.
Yeah.
Granted, thank God, no big ones. So
Are you still riding full time?
yeah, well, and I ride quite a bit. Although being a dad of two, I try to like pick up the slack with that. And winter was pretty rough last year in Chicago, like as far as weather-wise. So last winter was pretty tough as far as like riding as much as I would have liked, and I kind of rode a lot of crappy spots, if that makes sense, because that's all I really had.
Batman tunnels?
If I didn't, yeah, let's say if
do you know about those? So they have the Chicago underground system is like
there's
the winner.
like a whole network of underground streets, and it's filthy under there a lot of the time, and it's sketchy, and it's still cold. It just might not be snowy.
Wet.
Yeah. And then there's some other spots around the city that I got that are undercover, but yeah. So I've been I still ride for GT, and we just actually did a really fun trip to St. Louis, which on the last day is when that back thing happened. But yeah, and that's been going great. And in between that, I do a lot of sort of odd jobs that like kind of how do I say it, like very short term projects, if you will, whether it be marketing focus groups, things like that for different companies.
Okay,
So,
cool. Yeah, I didn't know that.
Fun,
I always figured you would just like end up being a politician.
Because he was super involved in like the city and getting parks built, and like I've been to meetings with him, and he's so well spoken.
That's why my question about are you still riding full time, because I know he's still a professional rider, but like his other skills and all the stuff you do, I was like, you probably are doing something I don't even know.
Yeah, and there's
Which you
always,
are. You're doing marketing stuff.
Yeah, and there might be some other stuff coming down the pipeline. Also, I've been judging a lot of those high level contests, like the Olympic qualifiers, and then the Olympics back in Tokyo last year.
Yeah.
You judge the Olympics?
Yeah. So that was intense.
Okay, so we're gonna have to save that for the.
I know we're going on a Brian Kachinsky podcast.
There's no rails at the Olympics.
Yeah. All right. Fucking talking about rails.
So what
What do you like? 20 to 30, 30 to 40, 15 to 20? What's your favorite rail?
30 to 40.
I don't know. He's Brian Kachinsky. He's the rail god.
Well,
I grew up watching you do the biggest rails, and just like you're making video parts before I even probably grinded a rail. So
thanks. Yeah, that means
thanks for all the motivation to so many people with your crazy street riding in general, but you're pushing rails to another level.
Thanks. I mean, that's obviously flattering to hear, especially from you and from anybody. I think going back to like what's my favorite rail, that just brought back a memory of when I went to go nollie onto El Toro, which was many years ago now. I remember
nobody was doing nollie to rails. I feel like
it was it was pretty rare. Probably not of that size, and
definitely not of that size.
I remember pegging it to warm up, and when I just pegged down it, and I remember thinking to myself, and I might have even said out loud to everyone there, I'm like, that is how a rail should feel. So I would say that like 20 range, probably even a little shorter. I mean, a 16 stair, pegging down a 16 or 18 stair still feels really good. But it just all depends on the trick. And that's, I think, what the beauty is of handrails, is that there's so many variations and so many different, lengths and like even materials and shapes and, run ups and gap to rails and all, there's so many little intricacies of it that it all feels good if you do what you're wanting to do. But I think just going back to the basics of like pegging down a rail, the longer the better.
Yeah.
If you're
especially down some stairs like El Toro, like it's 20, but you only have to balance a tiny little bit, and it feels so good. Like there's something about that, because if it was like a mellow 20 stair, it'd be pretty hard to do every time.
But it's not. But yet it's not like cyanide steep. You know, it's not like the rail you iced off that tanker or whatever that I saw recently. Or was that?
I'm gonna have to pull up so many clips.
Yeah. So when I think of that, when I think of rails like that,
that was probably 20, but it's like on off. Like
Right.
you literally aren't even balancing. You're like as soon as your pegs hit, you're pulling back off.
And those kind of rails like pummel you into the ground when you land. Even if you pull off the way you want to, you know, you're feeling it. And I feel like El Toro is just that amount of like it's steep where it's really roasting you down, but you're not like.
It's insane how much we can talk about these things that people put up for people to walk around or like
Exactly.
stabilize themselves, and we just look like, ooh, it's a circle, it's up against a wall, it's square. Like
That's what I
so
always
many
just
different
thought that
types of these handrails.
Yeah, the kind of the irony of that, the something that's built for safety.
Yeah.
That we're actually trying to get as most danger, like the most danger we can out of them a lot of times. So
That is a valid statement.
Yeah.
Who did the first handrail?
Matt Hoffman apparently.
Matt Hoffman did the first handrail. Yeah, I heard that.
Is
That's
what
insane.
From what I've asked around quite a bit, and that's
What a
sort
legend.
of the consensus. I would like to hear about anyone else that was maybe around
No,
that
I'm
same time.
I'm pretty sure that is correct.
I think I asked Dennis McCoy
Yeah.
this on our last trip, and he said Hoffman.
Yeah,
And he
yeah.
was like, he's like a BMX encyclopedia, and he was very certain about
So
it.
Yep, and I
here
can
it
picture
is right here. So it's on Facebook of all places. So I don't even know if you can do full screen, but literally, what year does he say
That's a
this
pretty
is?
perfect rail. That's
Yeah.
like another thing you're saying, like, a big, nice 20 stair feels super. Oh my gosh.
And he redid it like
back
40
redid it.
on his 43rd birthday.
That's
Because
awesome.
sometimes when rails are too small, it's like people's first rail, like they almost miss their front peg and it gets so sketchy. But like you need a little bit of.
See, I always thought that.
I was picturing a
Oh my
square one.
God.
I thought the first one he did was like a fatter square one.
I know the one you're talking about too. So
Yeah, that was in Oklahoma.
Said one.
City
I guess
somewhere.
this does say one of the first rails I did in my teens.
Okay,
so
okay.
that's a fair point. So
Might not be the very first rail
may
ever
not be
done.
the very first one. It's not 45 minutes. So yeah, I think one of the first he has that square one that you're talking about. I'm pretty sure. I think Austin, was it in Austin? I don't know. No, it's in
could've been.
Oklahoma. Maybe it's in Oklahoma.
Yeah.
And then there's the one at the school in Balboa Park. That one is like supposedly one of the first ones as well. So, but first ice pick. Do you know who did the first ice pick down the rail?
Was it in Homeless Trash? Oh wait, was it Pova?
I think it's Pova. Pova and
I was
Trainer in the
surprised-
same day, in the same
Okay.
session. They
Wow.
both did it. So
That's awesome. I was
Yeah.
actually surprised to learn that because for as long as I've known Pova and as much I've known about him, I don't think he ever.
yeah.
I don't think he ever like told me about that or claimed that.
Yeah, I think
like,
when you ask him, I think he gives it to Trainer. So, but I think they're both in the same day. So I
Yeah.
think it's kind of a split thing. It's pretty funny, because Pova's not Pova. You wouldn't consider to be a rail rider,
Right,
So
right.
it's a good old Brad Pitt lookalike.
And I thought maybe it was and I'm having like a total blank right now, but like the guy who did so much of the stuff in the Goot. Kevin
The Goot,
Gutierrez
yeah.
did a lot of,
Yeah.
from what I understand, a lot of MBDs in one of those homeless.
Yeah,
deals.
and the other, we could definitely go and say a bunch of uneducated
Yeah.
stuff. I was definitely going to say we should pull up, I think I actually have it open over here. Dirty Deeds.
Oh, Escamilla.
Yeah. So he has like the first rail
It's
bar in
crazy.
here.
Yep.
And he does like kind of some second stage stuff where it's like a kinked rail.
Yep.
And then
Like he was young doing all this stuff
Whoa,
too.
sorry, I'm on double speed. I just realized this is how I watch YouTube sometimes.
Mike
That's all right. Mike
Escamilla.
usually rides slow and low anyway, so you might as well speed it up.
I'm gonna text him that right now.
No,
He's definitely more of a net ledge nibbler.
Yeah.
Him and Yumi.
Yeah, I don't know that Rooftops ever really done anything scary, so no, I'm just,
Hey,
I can give him shit because
Yeah.
I'm friends with him.
Yeah.
No, he. What's funny is like he was one of the riders I grew up looking up to, and I guess I didn't really know that he was the first to do a lot of this stuff
Yeah.
because I was so new to BMX. You know what I mean? I saw it and I was like, oh wow, this stuff's it's crazy, it's cool, but I didn't know that no one else had done stuff
Yeah.
like that. So yeah, that's just like it's incredible that we're still young enough in BMX that these people who invented so many of these things are like
Still in it,
good friends
yeah.
of mine and people I've hung out with,
and still riding right now.
Yeah.
That was sick.
The
He was
the
far.
concept of just being like, oh yeah, just do a
Correct,
crooked
down the
rail.
rail. What year was this? Because I think he was like 16 in this, because he told me he was doing all his first rails and stuff
That's
when
a
he was
good
like
question.
16 or maybe younger.
Yeah.
1995.
95.
Bobby was -1. I have no idea.
Yeah, so that would have been the year I started riding, roughly.
That is crazy.
Yeah. But yeah, Mike, and it's funny, even as recently as like mid 2000s or late 2000s, I went on trips with Rooftop, and he was doing like crazy S-curve
Look at him.
rails and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, Rooftop pushed everything. Street, park. He was always just pushing it.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Yeah, he's one of those guys, I think he just sets his mind to wanting to get something done, and he just does what needs
Oh
to
yeah,
be
there's
done.
there's the second stage one. That's what I was
Rad.
trying to find. The pull up is so
Wow,
far back.
yeah.
Like, it really shows how long the
Yeah.
bike was back then,
And awesome that he went right off the kink, like all the way off the end.
even though it didn't have a support underneath it.
Yes, we'll talk about that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I did find that Rob DeQuattro clip too. We're looking for the rail bar. That's what I'm holding out for. I'm afraid to fast forward.
Yeah, which is a clip worth waiting for too, because it looks totally different than rail bars
Yeah.
you see today.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, at this time,
This is
they're-
95. This wasn't even
Yeah.
30 years ago.
and they're just
you know?
figuring it
Yeah.
out. You know,
Yeah.
there's no one to. It's always easier to do something when you've
BMX
seen
is a
someone else's
baby.
do it. Like when
It's
you
really
see-
young.
Yeah.
Half bar across the roof.
Like, the shit's all really crazy, but it looks ancient almost.
Yeah.
it
Like
is
it'd be
great.
like-
The
yeah.
technology has come a long way
Yeah,
too.
like,
Imagine
it's
if it
like-
was
like
like
80
filmed
years
the
old.
same.
Oh yeah, and bikes
Yeah.
were terrible. I mean,
Yeah.
they were like just so heavy and clunky.
That's San Diego right there. That spot's
Yeah.
still around.
Yeah.
Wow. Looks totally different, though.
Yeah,
That's the same high school I did the gap pegs, right?
it is. Yeah. Ooh. Yeah, I
Yeah.
think even like Peg's pullover was like
I think, like all this
bizarre,
is brand new.
you know,
Yeah.
like
So what video? Was this like a big video at the time?
this is Dirty Deeds.
Dirty
yeah,
Deeds? Definitely heard of that video a million times.
yeah, it's a good one.
The cool thing about that too is like you could see the effort to make it over the curb.
Yeah.
I think back
Yeah,
in that
here's a little
day,
more.
it wouldn't have even really been a thought. That's wild.
Yeah, because like
Yeah, he's-
clearing the curb wasn't important.
Yeah.
I feel like it'd be like, oh, I just did the rail and I just rode off the curb, but
Right,
like
which
the idea
would
of
have
like
totally been
yeah,
good enough, especially for a rail that
Yeah.
long. You know.
So, shout out to
Rooftop for changing the
Pioneer.
game right there.
Yep.
Yeah.
'Cause
And
there's
you can
like-
watch right here. You can watch the last ever Feeble Talk with Rooftop, where he talks shit on everybody.
Yeah.
So
He's the man. Gotta appreciate a good shit talker.
Well, and he'll
you know,
talk shit
there's
about
not enough
himself,
of them.
too.
Yeah,
Exactly.
exactly.
So that's always
so
Nothing wrong
I
with some
know.
good shit talk.
I know.
Josh,
I feel like there's another good one.
Yeah.
This one I actually
I feel
got-
like he changed the game with like burliness.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
Rooftop was doing stuff no one was doing on rails, but then Heino came and like said like we can ride these spots, guys.
Yeah.
he
Yep.
changed it
Yep.
up.
when I moved to Long Beach, anytime I would see like a big ledge or I'd see like a rail or a setup, I'd be like, wow, that thing is like totally possible. Like, and then I'd be like, oh yeah, Heino did that. He like, it kind of what you're talking about is like, you can do a spot tour and it's like kind of, you know, people like Dennis and Garrett and Demo and stuff that like kind of tackled a lot of setups. Like Heino was like king setup of Long Beach. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
it was-
And it was like I feel like such a big gap before anybody else was doing this size stuff.
Yeah.
Like he
Yeah.
did it and then people just left it alone until
Yeah.
like Kachinsky came around.
Yeah.
Van.
Yeah. It
There
seems
was a
like
pretty
and he
big-
was the first person to ride El Toro too on a bike, as far as I know.
Yeah,
Which
he's-
that is such a huge step up from what
Yeah.
people were doing at this time.
Yep.
So I put together a little montage. I didn't have time to do this for everybody, but
You got to do
Right.
it for Josh Heino because
yeah. Shout out to Josh. For-
Yeah. He might have been my motivation to learn overgrinds, possibly.
yeah, I mean, this overgrind,
This one is so
insane,
crazy.
dude. Still, I mean, literally, it could be somebody's ender today.
Yeah.
No fucking the lean into it, like the Josh Harrington, you know, like
Yep.
the quintessential Harrington lean into it.
Yeah.
Just wild setups. I had to put this one in there just because it was sick.
Yeah.
that's not a rail, but
Yeah.
there's rails around it.
I think there's one.
There's a fence
Yeah.
around it. Yeah, man.
Just a cut, just burly. I'm pretty sure that's Long Beach.
He was a little bit before my time too when I was watching video parts, and I learned about him and went back and watched his parts, and I was like,
Yeah.
who is this
Just
guy?
he's
what
such
a
like a
badass.
Visceral dude. Like
Yeah.
this thing is so. Oh, that. Sorry, it does. There's another clip of that. That's sick. Too.
Damn, this one,
Yeah.
people got to watch this one on YouTube. This is a visual episode of Unclicked.
Yeah, in the car.
Oh my
That
god.
clip
That
always
shit is so good,
that clip
dude.
always blew me
Roof to
away. It was
rail,
like-
and then
like the most
Like,
fortunate, the most fortunate OTB ever.
yeah,
Right? Like
imagine if he just cleared
His
the
head
wall.
was a
If he-
foot away
Yeah.
from that car.
if he
His
cleared the
bumper.
wall, he would have
gotten
died.
smoked.
Yeah.
Like it's fucking insane. Like, oh yeah, nobody thought to check for cars.
Yeah.
No, they're worried.
Car
About
swerves,
they're worried about him getting the gap derail.
and he's so happy, he just smiles and waves.
Imagine the dinner time story for that car.
Right.
Like, I was driving along whatever street that was, and like literally saw a guy jump out of the bush, and there was a bike flying after him too. I don't know what. Yeah, I love it. That's always funny too. Is like thinking about how we view things versus other people.
Oh yeah,
and
yeah. I mean, even yesterday, like when I went out on the road and the guy would like post ceremoniously honked, like it was already done, and he was like, I have to honk, and you're like,
Yeah.
it wasn't even like an
Was it
issue.
like a hell yeah?
Yeah.
Or was
No, it was like an angry one because I like kind of got in the road, but it wasn't like
You
close.
did
by
a, did
me.
a rail yesterday.
I did do a rail yesterday. It was this big.
That is the world's smallest rail.
Yeah,
I think.
it's
That's
insane.
like not the world's smallest rail. It's the world's perfect first rail.
Yeah,
Like, you
it's
haven't done a rail in a
I've
while.
never.
You want to do a
It's
new
been
ra-
capped for
get-
like 15 years or something.
Yeah.
So I didn't even know that it was uncapped until yesterday.
going
So
again.
It's pretty funny.
perfect
So,
first rail.
yeah.
Or
go
get back
come to
on
San
rails.
Diego, do that rail. I'll send you the pin.
How
DM
did
me.
your guys' first rails go? Like the first time?
I was going to ask you about your first
Oh,
rail, then I
that's such a
started
good-
thinking I can't
that
even
is a-
remember my first rail. It was
is-
like embarrassing.
I
I'm going to think it up.
Mine was the UCI Kinker.
No way.
UCI Kinker?
Yeah, the
Oh,
one that
that's
the
right.
one that the one that everybody did like after rail and all that.
Raleigh over
Yeah.
switch crank arm.
Yeah.
Still insane.
What's his fucking god damn it?
Switch footed over crank arm.
Owns a shop now. Why am I Alvarado? Larry
Larry.
Alvarado.
Oh,
Did
he's a
so-
rail boss, dude.
He did
Larry
so much
Alvarado.
crazy shit on that rail and in general too. So shout out to him because I feel like that's like an unsung, like because he was doing all the switch stuff and all this crazy shit like back then. So
Yeah.
but yeah, UCI Kinker, and it was it wasn't good for it. It was just like we drove all the way up to UCI. I'm gonna fucking do a rail, and that just was the rail.
And you
So,
you did a kinked one.
yeah,
That's
so,
amazing.
but-
I think
about
my
going.
first one, there was like a 6-stair rail, and like at the 3rd stair, it had like a bend in it from something landing on it, and I just gapped to tink my peg on it. And I was with Chris Hervin. I was like, dude, I did a gap to ice. and I was telling him, I was like, I've been doing like 10-stair rails and stuff, but they were like 10-stair rails at the Santee skate park, the square one.
Oh, yeah,
So I
yeah,
really
yeah,
like
yeah,
was
yeah.
just like, I wasn't lying, but I was like making it sound like I was
Yeah.
doing rails. And he was so sick of hearing it. He pulled over to the rail across the street at the Claremont Park, and it's like a real rail. And he's like, all right, if you've been doing all these rails, here's a good one for you. And I was like, oh shit. So I like got pushed into doing it. I was like, yeah, okay, Chris. And I got it, but it was like the scariest thing in my life. So I just
That's
kind of got
hilarious.
pushed into doing a real rail.
So that was your first rail.
That's my first rail. Chris Hervin, he was like, damn, you've been doing these rails. Like, let's see it.
Yeah, yeah.
I think I put elbow pads on, everything. I was like, "Phew, I'm going to die right now. But I got to show Chris I can do a rail.
That's amazing. That's
Yeah.
amazing.
So I lied my way into my first rail. Pretty much.
I remember doing mine. My first one, we were at this campus not far from where I grew up, and there was a rail that was perfect because it was low. It was maybe like 5 stairs or something like that, and it was low and it was square, fairly like I don't know, a couple inches wide or something like that. But it was that. You know that like chrome sort of steel
Yeah,
stuff? It's
yeah.
sort of aluminum, sort of steel. But anyways, I put my bike on it. I had obviously metal pegs, no hub guards, no nothing like that at the time. Dropouts probably stuck out
Oh,
like
yeah.
knives underneath, you know? So I put my bike on it and I was like, yeah, this thing slides. I've never jumped on a real rail before.
Probably just
But
pushing your bike without putting
yep,
weight on it.
Exactly, yeah. And so I jumped on and yeah, the first time I just kind of stopped. and then this, I don't remember if I tipped over or whatever, but then the second time I jumped on and I was like so shocked that I'd gotten on and that I had gotten to the end that I totally forgot about pulling up your front wheel. So I was just like celebrating in my head, like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this is happening. I'm like doing the shit that I see in the videos, like, but then just nose dove down. So I don't even know if I technically pulled that one, but then shortly after that, I did a bunch more and kind of like it escalated from there. But just from that feeling, like getting over that
Right.
fear, that like getting over that fear is so. That's the most intriguing part about it, I think, and the toughest part about it.
Like you said
is-
too, you watch people do it for so long, and you're like, that is so crazy. And when we're finally on top of a rail, like
Yeah, because
whoa, I'm doing this.
it's go time. Yeah, and it's so interesting that like that moment when you can push past that. And that could go for any BMX trick, but I feel like rails especially, because they're so intimidating. And
Yeah, I don't think in the first rail needs to be the right rail. You just need to be in the right mindset.
Exactly,
You know,
yeah.
like I think that's more than anything.
like
You know,
you
like
said,
if
too,
you're
there's-
looking for that first rail, it's like, you're probably not going to find it.
Rails
You know?
are intimidating because you have to take these slams to learn how to get out of them to like keep moving forward.
Yep.
Because I feel like a lot of like my really talented friends don't ride rails because they're just so intimidated of taking those first falls because you're gonna miss your back peg on one of them eventually. You know, you're gonna do these stupid things that really like they're terrifying, but you do it once or twice and it's like ingrained in your brain, like, and then it just gets really fun.
yeah.
One other thing I wanted to credit Heino to, because you mentioned giant dropouts, is his frame was like the first one that came out that had like peg size dropouts.
He knew it was up.
Oh,
And he
awesome.
was like, and he literally was like, it fucks me up all the time. So they like removed all the material and it was literally peg sized. And
The last
I remember
15
him
years.
showing me and just being like, it's not gonna be strong. And he's like, you don't know, it's
Yeah.
gonna be fucking fine.
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know, like, and I just
Because
like,
he was pretty straight up. Like,
Yeah.
I remember,
Yeah.
like when I first met him, I was like, "Well, this guy's not very friendly, but
Yeah.
he's honest." you
yeah,
know? Like,
no,
so,
he's
yeah.
awesome. He's awesome.
Yeah, he's
for
a
sure.
cool dude.
I remember previous to that, like when I really started riding rails, and my bikes weren't built for it dropout wise, and I didn't have that smooth sort of surface to have like peg, hub guard, you know, all, like everything we have now is all in line.
Yeah, we got
I
it
would
dialed
take
in
a-
now.
I didn't have an angle grinder or anything like that, so I would just take a hacksaw and just like hack away piece by piece and then file it, you know. So it was a couple hour project probably to get my frame into like rail mode, you know, every time I got a frame. And it's come a long way now. Like the
Hubbs
do
are, it's
have a
matching the-
BK highlight
the plastic.
reel as well.
Let's watch
Yeah,
that instead
so
of talking about
we can
hub
we could do it.
Oh my
Yeah,
god! There's,
sorry,
there's those falls that you see. that you're
I
like,
had to put the grounded the intro.
my
Sorry, so God, that one is.
Yeah, a
Yep.
lot of these were in
you
like
really took some you taking some slams.
yeah, that
Pushing
was
the
rough.
game though. You've changed the game.
No, that was the hanger attempt, kinker hanger.
Yeah.
Yeah. I really wanted to hanger a kinker. at the
Sound
time.
the sound of your falls is always like that, dude. The dip on that.
Yeah.
Okay,
Like,
so I feel like there was like rooftops part we just watched in the beginning, and then there was Heino who changed the game for big stuff, and then this part was like big stuff and like tech, you know?
Yeah.
Like you were doing tricks on the big setups.
This line
You
is
changed the
this line
game.
is just like I love rails.
Yes.
I
No,
love
you-
rails.
This was at my college, and I would walk up and down those stairs every single day on
Oh,
the
you
way
think
to class.
you think it's over? No more rails.
Yeah,
Dude.
and it was
Yeah, man.
It was such a big. Oh, this one was funny too.
This was like you took the tricks to the big spots. You changed the game with this part.
That one was funny because I was like, if I get that first one, I'm doing the second one.
Yeah.
And the first one came first try.
I love your front brake stuff because you like really pulled him there on that nose manual and that one.
God, this is what you guys were talking about earlier.
Just the ones that go to the ground.
Yeah.
You can even see like back your ass like hits the tire.
You know it's
Yeah.
steep when you're ice kicking and you're not past parallel with the ground.
Right,
You're like you're locked in.
Like I wasn't doing gnarly ices yet.
this
when
this one looks like a
Oh, my god, dude.
That was a broken tailbone, actually.
God.
You are crazy.
That was a funny setup too, because I had to go out of a classroom.
Oh, really?
Basically, yeah.
Ooh,
I just like the
40,
smile.
50.
The smile at the end. Like
That's why my question
I
was
love
serious.
rails.
You like 30 to 40 stairs? Like
I know, right?
Like he is in that realm.
So you know what's funny is that big rails are kind of going away, right?
Nah.
Well,
Not like in BMX. I'm saying like the actual big rail. Like think of a 30, like the only 30 stair rail in San Diego is the one that Christian did at what's it
There's
they
like
don't
some gnarly
exist.
ones going into Grossmont Center that no one's done. They're all like 30 to 40.
Straight
They're
or
there. You
kinked?
they have kinks at the bottom.
Oh, okay.
Straight.
Kings at the bottom. Okay,
I think
straight.
people just don't look at them. It's like it's a group of people looking for those 30
Right.
to 40
Yeah.
stair rails. Like who wants
I think
that?
just from like a city planner liability like standpoint, I think they add flat spots so people don't just fucking tumble down 30 stairs now.
it makes sense. I don't
Yeah.
know. I've always
That's
kind of been
interesting.
curious about the legality of that,
Yeah.
because you do find rails that seem like higher than regulation, lower than regulation, and like as far as
that's
like,
why
you're
that's
like,
why
does this
stuff
even like really serve its intended purpose because it's like so damn high or so low or whatever.
Yeah.
You know, in certain areas of the country, definitely they're still around, but they're probably not built in recent times that I've seen. I'm sure there's exceptions. Like I'll probably get like DMs after this, like check this one out they built last week. But
yeah, I think
when
they're
I was
there.
when I was living in Maryland for that couple years, there's a ton out there, and a lot of them are from like the 80s or 90s.
Yeah, I think
or
new
something
construction
like that,
they
but-
don't make straight rails anymore though.
Yeah.
Like that's kind of what I'm thinking because
Hold
when
you to
things
that and
get
look around for these.
Yeah.
Yeah.
when things get torn
Yeah.
out, they usually get like worse
Yeah.
for the most part, except for the spot that Albert showed me yesterday, which was like a gap to rail yesterday or a kinker. Yesterday,
What about the
so-
Claremont school that used to have the best bank defense ever? That
Yeah.
like, and now it's this amazing school. Like how
Yeah.
that school's crazy.
Yeah.
You know that one? What's it called?
They did
whatever it's
the
called.
live thing. I don't want to. Even if I could remember,
Yeah.
I wouldn't say it. But
True.
they literally, it was like it's like the one that Rob Wise did the over ice to back over look back, and Garrett did the ice to hard 450.
Yeah.
is
They ripped that out.
they're like BMX doesn't really like bake defenses anymore. We're gonna
Yeah.
go with ledges.
Yeah, they put like
and they just
block
put like
sets
block
and perfect
sets and
rails,
ledges
like-
That's amazing.
like to the point where they
Yeah.
had the live stream.
Yeah, we're like, oh no,
like brakeless
this is
TV
like a
thing.
better school somehow.
Yeah, they updated it with
yeah,
the
they're like,
times.
let's go, let's get 2020 on this. Like,
Yeah.
so, but back to the highlight reel. So that was all grounded stuff. This is not in any particular order.
Oh,
but-
wow, this is a throwback.
so
huh?
Nathan claimed he said that the nose wheelie at that's Indiana, right?
Yep.
Shout out to Eric Hawley as
Yep.
well. You can't really talk about
destroyed
these
that
without-
rail.
Yeah. He claimed that as kind of one of his like more memorable rail clips.
Really?
So maybe just
Awesome. Well, there's a longer one I do at the end of this part.
Yeah.
I think that's actually down the street from that other one. It's still there. But no, thanks, Nathan. That's good to hear.
Damn, you sent.
Do you miss like the Cuba hats, the fedoras?
No, they serve their purpose for the time. It was kind of funny. I was thinking the other day, this is the one.
Yeah, that one's crazy. It's like
Yeah.
a magic trick.
Yeah, and there's a fish angle of that, but I think it's like a little shaky or something like that. That was first go.
Really?
That surprised me too. And I was gonna try it again, but I was like, man, I just got that first try, so I'm gonna.
I like the dust cloud on this one.
Yeah. Yeah, and a lot of these are Midwest. Like, oh yeah, and then that one.
Ooh.
Wallace's
Yeah.
Nolly Wallace. Should have named your kid Nolly Wallace.
Yeah. Wow, I haven't seen a lot of these in a minute.
Wow, I'm impressive.
No, I'd literally forgotten about half.
And
of
then
these.
what was the name of this?
Oh, it was
Desert.
something like
High desert?
Vacation to Nowhere or
Yeah.
something like that. Or yeah, it was all in the high desert area of California,
Big Bar Kachinsky.
which was really, really awesome because Kramus and I went out there. He's from there.
So he just had all the spots for you.
Sort of, yeah, but yeah, he definitely did. Him and a lot of the locals, and
If you're watching, you got to watch this on YouTube. There's so much good stuff to see.
We could. I
yeah,
mean,
this
yeah.
rail was great. And
was
is the
This
one-
podcast, I mean, not this.
Yeah.
This edit and this part. This is a
Shake your-
visual unclicked.
Oh, I see what
that's
you mean.
the
You know?
over- yeah. Oh, so
Yeah, the
backwards
so-
ice to overtooth. Yeah.
Oh man, I don't think I ever knew that was an overtooth.
Really?
No.
Oh.
Watch it again. How would you know?
Because
Yeah, it's hard to
I feel like
tell.
almost should have because he does it here. So here
that
that's
was an
that-
overtooth?
So
no,
that was-
that's
that was
regular.
regular side, yeah.
And then the video part keeps going.
And then it goes back to that rail.
Yeah. But it is hard because of lighting. I almost feel like some
Yeah.
Okay, I
yeah.
can kind of tell.
It is hard. It is hard.
I could kind of tell after watching it 3 times.
Yeah. Oof.
Scraper.
Yeah.
This is GT stuff?
Dude,
Yeah, this was,
thank you for putting this
GT
all together.
seriously
This
fun,
is
yeah.
so sick. I was gonna go ride some ramps, but I want to go ride street now.
It's so funny because a lot of these, I feel like there's like a little story to go with like almost every
I'm
clip,
sure,
and that's the
yeah.
beauty of it. Like, I almost feel like that could be something that's a little more exclusive to street riding. Is that like there's kind of a lot of times there's a story that goes with it, because it's not a perfect environment. It's not like we showed up at the skate park that we were supposed to be at, or that we were allowed to be at. It's like it's all.
What makes a good nollie rail?
Oh, so that's interesting.
Is it like all run up?
For me, yes, because I like to be like really set by the time I'm getting ready to nollie. I don't like to be pedaling all the way up to it. I like to get all my pedals out of the way before the rail, and then coast for like, I don't know, let's say 20 feet before I even nollie, so I get like my body set, get everything set, make sure I'm going like as straight as an arrow or whatever I need to do for that setup. But really depends on the trick, because we were at a rail yesterday that was a little bit on the mellower side for nollie, but for nollie pegs it would be
the one
great.
you grinded.
Yeah, for nollie pegs it would be great, and for nollie hanger that would work. That would work for nollie hanger, and you wouldn't necessarily get like pummeled into the ground, because there's steeper rails that work for nollie hanger too, but you better be ready to you better be ready to take that thunder when you hit. But for like nollie ice, nollie manual, that kind of thing, I like rails that are, because I essentially calculate it like the point where I'm getting onto the rail is probably realistically going to be like.
Well, this is a manual, so that's hardly counts. But
but it's crazy
that might have been the first real nollie rail manual I did. I think it was. Yeah.
I think that might have been the first nollie rail manual anyone's ever done.
Yeah, right.
I was so
and I don't
excited.
think anyone's ever. Well, someone probably has, but I can't think of a legit one right now.
I was so excited when I found that, because I had been looking for it for a long time.
Yeah.
I found it, and I like hit up
play that again?
two of my buddies. I was like,
so that one you like rolled off. You almost did the L strand.
yeah,
Like, see how you like under dipped?
yeah.
And
I
then
have
you
one.
start pulling up.
Yeah.
Dude.
Wow, I kind of got away with something there.
Yeah.
No,
was
that's just
like,
proper as hell. Like,
No,
Well, I didn't get the.
You could see it in real time. Watch this front wheel, because it rolls off.
It was
Yeah.
arms. Like my arms made that happen. It wasn't necessarily
just
like
do that one in slow.
the trajectory of the.
It's crazy because when you look at a rail to nollie onto, you're like, all right, I'm going to land. I have to get this far. But
Oh, yeah. Okay.
when you look at it like this, it's like, damn, you go so much further than you think.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you don't have to, but I would always rather err on the side of go a little, and then So that's the thing. There's been plenty of.
I've never
rails that
nollied to a real rail.
There's really.
Nope.
Oh,
I
let's
really
get you
want
on
to.
one.
I've been trying.
I'll find one for you.
Cool.
I've
I've been doing them. I've been doing them
Balboa
at
Park one.
I've been doing them at parks a lot, so I got to get a real one soon.
So you'd rather, and same with a lot of gap trail stuff. You'd rather overshoot than undershoot.
Wait,
so there's a lot of
stuff.
these.
I gotta pee, but I want to keep watching
Yeah.
Kachinsky.
You can keep talking.
Well, yeah, there's a lot of these things that I might have done, and I've like reeled them back in after, or like reeled them back in the second try. Obviously, there's certain things you only get
I know
one
what you're
try,
saying.
but there has been ones where I'm like, okay, yeah, I did the gap to ice, or I nollie pegged it or something like that, but I'm like, let me go a little slower this time and get more of the rail. And now that I have the jitters out of me, now that I have that kind of like, because I'm sure you can relate on the second try of anything. You have more mental clarity than you do ever on the first try, I think. Unless
you're angry.
That, or unless there's absolutely no second tries. There are setups like that.
Yeah.
There are setups like that where you need to get this first try, and you better be, things better be as clear as they can be in your mind before you do it. So it's kind of an interesting thing as far as like the nollie rail stuff. It really depends on what trick you want to do out of it, because nollie ice, you can get away with I think the first nollie ice I did was a really steep skate park rail, actually. And then I did one at X Games in 2009, and I don't think they had I don't think anyone had done one before that. But that, I don't count that as a real one. So I went to Ohio like the week after X Games.
Now that it got debuted.
And I did one on a real rail, and it was at a mall, and it was at 9 a.m. And it's funny because I look at a lot of these and I was like, a lot of these are like morning, like first thing of the day sort of clips. And I have kind of reasoning for that, like why I like to do that. But I had to make sure. Well, once I did that one in X Games, that was like a legit real sized rail. I was like, okay, I got to make this happen on like an actual real setup. And the only time to do it was when the mall was going to be closed at 8 a.m. or something like that. But it was kind of a big one. It was I could find it at some point, but it was kind of a bigger one too. It was in Dayton, Ohio, and it was yeah, luckily first try and all that kind of stuff. But it was like steep,
Yeah.
almost like that one we were talking about earlier, where you're like, oh man, those steep ices where you can tell like your butt hits the back tire, kind of. It was like around that.
What, your first nollie
realm.
to grind, or?
No, my first nollie ice on a reel rail. First nollie pegs on a reel rail for me might have been the one in Grounded. It's the Albuquerque one that I died on trying to nose wheelie. Yeah, it's
At the school in the front of the school.
yeah.
Albuquerque's got rails.
So funny how you can just
That's a good rail
pick stuff
city.
like that.
I feel like.
Yeah.
I don't remember the
Albuquerque's
clip, but I can think of a rail that would be good for nollies in Albuquerque. And I'm like, all right, that's
Yeah.
it. So
I don't know if it's still around anymore.
I don't think so either.
But-
I feel like you would still see it.
Yeah, but yeah, going back to like the morning thing.
People don't
You
do
and
that
I
many
have
trips in Albuquerque right now.
You and I have had
being
some
slept on.
morning missions before, and I had one actually on this last St. Louis trip that I was on. But I love it because it's rails, especially gapped rails, bigger rails, whatever. Those are things that require, you're going to be stressing about it. You know,
Yeah.
it's requires a lot of focus, commitment, and I know that if I don't do that first thing in the morning, no matter what we ride or what we do previous to that, I'm going to just have that in my mind. And I want to, like, a lot of times I'm like, I know I can do this. I want to do it. And I want to either make this a great day or a not great day. Obviously in my mind, I think I'm going to make it a great day because I wouldn't be trying it if I thought I was going to give myself a bad time by doing this. But it's kind of one of those things, because how you feel after you do something like that, after you do like a big rail or like a big banger period, you feel like that, that high, that invincible, you feel invincible, and you feel like, so you have so much confidence the rest of that day. And it's like, well, why not make it the first thing of the day? And it's just like an awesome day after that, no matter what, like almost like no pressure after that.
Yeah, it makes sense.
And there's been plenty of times too where I'm like, oh, we'll go to that later. You end up getting broke off on something stupid before that, and you never make it to what you really want to do. So
That is true.
and then there's the whole security factor too. A lot of times rails are at places that you can't ride. So when we were in St. Louis, we did one at 7 a.m, but it was there or something like that. It was like sunrise.
Different breed in that sense, because kind of the by any means breed. You know what I mean? Like kind of the Christian type thing. Well, this doesn't work, and I need to do this and this and this, and the rooftop thing.
Christian
like,
Rigal or the religion?
Christian people.
That's what it sounded like.
Mormons too. Christian Rigal. Just his dedication.
Yeah,
to,
no, it's cool
The
what he
roller
says,
coaster, the roller coaster rail, and then like even like rooftop, where he's like, I'm gonna drive fucking 600 miles to this thing, and then get kicked out, and then drive 600 miles home, and then
It's
drive
that
600
like
miles back.
when you're staring down a rail, that focus and precision. Because like when you're, say you're riding a bank to fence or another spot that like you can kind of session forever and work on the trick. Like the rail, a lot of times, especially a big rail, like you're about to step up to, most of the time, like you're just sitting at the top of the stairs and visualizing the trick until it's just like you're so gone from the rest of the world. It's like the coolest feeling ever.
Yeah, it's almost peaceful, right? I mean, it's like
you just disappear. You're just thinking about what trick you're doing on this rail. Everything else in the world goes away when you're like you're about to get it.
Because in life you need to multitask. Like there's things you need to think about, like, oh, do I need to get my car fixed or my whatever, do I need to do this or do that, or
your brain's always running.
Yeah. And at that moment, it's like you need to be thinking about that, and that only doesn't matter who's texting you, who's calling you, like put the everything's away. Like it's that clarity, I think, in that sort of moment of like focus is pretty rare.
It's really rare, and especially doing something like that at 7 a.m. It's like this, people search their whole lives for these kind of highs, and like you're just like, there's that rail and it's going at 7 a.m, and you get it, and you're just out of this world for the rest of the day, or until it wears off.
That could really go for any trick in BMX, I know we're talking about rails, but the thing
big
about
rails
like,
get so scary. Like those are the ones that you said, like you can't even think about riding anything else, because you're just like, I want to do this trick on this scary rail. Like there's other things that you can just warm up to, but rails sometimes, like rail setups that get real big and gnarly, you just one and done.
It's funny to get I sometimes get a little philosophical about it, because I think it's so interesting that the whole concept of doing it is like getting from point A to point B in like the most creative or sometimes scary or difficult way possible. Like whether it's, you know, getting from the top of the stairs to the bottom of the stairs. Normal people, 99% of the people out there in the world just walk down that thing and hang on to it. And, you know, we're just trying to think of like, how can I get from here to here, you know, and sometimes it's like, there's also a ledge, and you grind the ledge first and go down the rail, and there's all these little options. And then we could also talk about going up rails and whatever, but just the sort of the thought of that, or sort of the whole concept of that is sort of funny when you think about it,
it's
but
the
also
weirdest thing ever,
yet so satisfying. And I think a lot of it, what makes it satisfying to me is like, like I got my bicycle from up there, I like from all the way up there to all the way down there, like just on that little piece, and maybe on my wheel, or this little 4-inch peg, or this little, you know, so that's what's really cool. And I think you know, we could talk about like another satisfying thing is the feel and the sound, and that is like a thing that I like, why I love metal pegs, for example.
Your metal pegs?
Yeah, I would say 95% of the time I always keep plastics with me, because like I've said before, I want the right tool for the right job, and I don't ever want my bike to be the reason I don't do something. Like, oh,
That's cool.
I would do this, but I don't have my plastic pegs with me. It would be fun, it would be cool, but you know, but and so plastic pegs are great, and I totally respect, like, you know, one of my favorite rail riders, Nathan Williams, he's a plastic pegger, you know, and he rides plastic pegs. And there are some clips, like I'll admit, when I watch some of Nathan's part, where I'm like, I would love to hear that sharpening knife, like shing, because I know it would sound like that, because he went top to bottom. But I mean, it's everyone's preference and everyone's own thing.
Well, you think back that one ice where he does on the kinker that has the knobs in Austin, and it's like that clip is like beautiful, and because it's incredible, and it has knobs, but the sound is
acoustic,
just like the cherry on top of it, you know, like it just adds so much more to the clip. Totally. If it was like
BMX music.
And I'll admit, I've had plastic pegs on my bike, say from riding a plaza where you needed to have plastics, and then gone to film a clip and purposely switched my peg to metal to have that sound, because I knew I'm like when I watch this later, I'm gonna wish I had that like swing, you know, that, like swing. I just it really is that, like, especially when clips are edited back to back like that, like I don't know, Andrew Brady brought it up to me once. He's like, it sounds like a sword fight when I'm watching these clips without looking at the screen, you know, because I think it was maybe a primo edit that I had a long time ago. I was riding a kinker that Harrington had done a bunch of stuff on too, and I was actually there with Harrington, and we had the kinks had been removed somehow the night before. I don't know how, but the kinks had been removed the night before, and we just had a session on it, and it was really funny watching the clips stacked back to back to back, because it was just like
like, I think I know which one you're talking about.
It was really
like,
like
grass on both sides.
And it just, you know, things like that. I think it adds to BMX kind of in a way.
It does.
But at the same time, plastic pegs are awesome too, because you can ride a lot of stuff that you can't, and they make cool stuff possible. So.
Rooftop loves plastic pegs.
Does he? Oh, no. For pools?
No, I have no idea. I was just trying to. I assume he hates them.
No, I think he rides them in pools.
I think he was one of the first people that was rocking plastic pegs. Demolition had plastic pegs way before anyone else, and
that's why I started riding them originally. But was pools, Paula pool, just so skaters could shut the fuck up. Let's talk about the most famous rail in BMX and skateboarding. El Toro. Shout out to Dig for
it. Ain't even there anymore.
Video.
There's a new El Toro though.
There is a new El Toro.
What one are you talking about?
No, there is. Yeah, you're talking about Walnut, right?
Yeah. No, but we got to watch this first. Yeah. I had a story about point A to point B that I thought was crazy.
I like how they got Biz to do the intro. Yeah. Both you guys have. There's. I lived that one.
Yeah. I was thinking about that last night, actually. I had you call one of your buddies.
Dude, like, people have got destroyed on this rail.
Yeah, when you were talking about how your wife is like kind of clued you in on like the internal organs and stuff, I was definitely thinking about the time. So when he tried he was having me call people.
Max Miller tried a 180 bar spin that.
Yeah.
Sorry, what you saying about spleen?
Kachinsky I was having to call friends who ruptured their spleen to see like what it felt like, because I wasn't sure. Yeah, and I didn't want to spend all night in the emergency room like trying to find out. I was like, does it hurt here? Or
he was just in the car ride. He was in the car in the passenger seat, just eating like the driest pretzels after just like falling down 60 stairs. And I'm calling people and being like, hey, when you ruptured your spleen, what did it feel like?
You straight up belly flopped from 20 stairs.
I sure did.
So we don't have too much audio for this. So if I'll link this in the description for people to watch. But it is a great piece on El Toro in general. Just the progression in what's the guy? David Cabrera?
Yeah.
That crooked it to low cash mirror lander?
Yes.
I assume that's in here.
Yeah, I remember that. That was like, there hadn't been crooked grinds that big.
No.
Up to that
I think this
that
maybe, is that him?
Maybe.
Yeah, I remember his hands blows out. Yeah, David Cabrera.
So Walnut's like El Toro, but it's like shoulder high. And I was just thinking like point A to point B, and when Hobie railroad it, like to watch that footage and know like, you know, where you came from as riding bikes, jumping off curbs, to like looking at that and like, I rode my tires down that shoulder high 20 stair rail. Like that is insane.
It is insane.
The rail ride down Walnut by Hobie is
I've been to that rail before. It is gigantic.
It's perfect though. It's like better than El Toro because of the height. It's like makes more sense. It's more what's the word, like proportion for BMX.
So
because El Toro's a little small, really. Like modern day, like looking at it, it's like kind of way too low.
Okay.
Well, no, low.
It's low. Yeah,
it's like a really low rail for how
it would be unlike, but it wasn't stupid low. It was more like on the lower side of regulation.
But Walnut's cool because you can kind of use your pop, like where El Toro was kind of like almost gnarly would be better to it, like at this point, maybe.
Yeah.
So somebody on your list of rail gods was Davey Watson, and this is Davey doing switch ice.
Yeah, I just felt like from where I was coming as a rider, like my generation, one of the first, it was like a ride video, and Davey was just doing huge rail stuff. So he was like one of the first guys I seen that I was like, whoa, this stuff's possible.
I got to live that one too. It was like 50 run-ups. Pulled first try.
Nice.
And it's from top to bottom.
I know. Yeah, he really hung on.
Oh, that was me in my dumb sweater. I was laying down. Ben Ward. Who else was there? Nate Morrishan.
He had to do it twice because they lost the first split.
Oh no.
No. That's that clip. I mean, that's a good story actually. I don't know if I should say that. Nevada's gonna hate me.
We gotta wait for someone like that to be on the podcast to tell the story.
Yeah, but he did do
Davey Watson.
He didn't do El Toro again because that's a clip. But he had to do his other bangers, like the manual, the manual line and all the
manual to hanger and then the Philly rail.
Yeah, he had to do all that stuff again.
So
which
Garrett
is
was just saying some shit right there.
No, I mean shit's.
I know,
gets mixed up.
Oh,
definitely.
I this too.
Live that one too.
Jeez,
that's my Hasselblad. Pointed the wrong direction, by the way, just so you guys know.
and it is like a little bit of an uphill landing.
Yeah,
right?
It is.
Man.
Yeah, it was fuck, dude. So you, I mean, this isn't rail related, but the proof of tail whip, old Dennis here.
I didn't do it.
Yeah, I know.
Proof of attempts.
No footage, just a Polaroid. Polaroid right over his head right here. I was telling you to not jump it first because I think it was after Brennan. I just watched him just die on it 8 times, and you were like, "I think I'm just gonna jump it first." And I was like, "Do not jump it first. Just tail whip it." Like
never. I have to jump it first.
Man. Just straight jump. Imagine straight jumping El Toro.
It does kind of seem more.
Like
I mean,
I was fine. Just all ass. You never get a chance to straight jump a 20 stair. Like I'm not gonna tail up this thing without jumping.
It is so strange, like how when you're jumping down a set without doing a trick, how much harder you land than if you're doing a trick.
Yeah.
Like I have no idea why that is, but yeah, I'm the same way though. And I mean, I've never been a huge like tricking gap guy, but the times I've always had to jump it first.
I love jumping it just so you know the timing and everything. You know, like it's like
you don't want to
first set over a dirt jump and huck a trick. You know,
I'm getting regrets on something I said. So Navaz, it wasn't Navaz's fault. Just throw it out there because I felt like the way I presented that as Navaz is going to hate me, like he lost the footage or something like that. It wasn't Navaz's fault. I just need to throw that out there. I was like in my head,
Just gotta clear the air there. All right.
And I think at one point I said nollie to grinds at El Toro is probably better, but I just meant as far as like how it's a low rail.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
nollie to grind is way crazier.
Do you have anything you regret? You said.
What's that?
Well, we just both get regrets on our
All
side.
right. All right.
I regret
Air is cleared.
nothing.
Nevada didn't do anything, and nollie to rail in Ontario.
Speaking of
Toro's fucked up.
regretting nothing,
Yeah.
here's after they fucking Mike.
Oh, you almost got your
Yeah.
foot stuck in the damn
Yeah.
upright. You were doing that at dark.
It was so dark.
Yeah, it was.
Oh my god,
That was the
dude.
worst one.
Fucking bounce.
All right,
So,
you're an
to just a
animal.
second,
We've seen
so-
you fall so hard so many
I
times in the
don't
last.
know this.
I don't know if you remember, but
20 minutes.
There was one try.
See if I can time it.
Oh, yeah, I really bounced.
And then look at me.
Yeah, you
Hold on.
really
Yeah,
bounced.
Yeah.
Look at me run in. Oh God, Brian, are you okay?
So there was one try that
Is that
wasn't
Martinez?
shown here.
No, it's me.
No,
Oh,
on the
in the dark. I don't know.
On the
No,
left.
it's
It
Sims.
looks like
It's
Sims.
Brad.
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
because Sims was there. He
Yeah.
went
Do
up
you have
it.
short
Yeah.
hair?
Maybe.
Just the footage is so grainy you
That was
can't
the
tell
same
what's
day he
going
went
on.
up it. So he went
Oh,
up
yeah.
it first,
Yeah,
and
it
then I
was.
tried the hanger. But so there was one try that didn't make it in this cut where I actually pull it, quote unquote. Like,
Oh, yeah, that is Brad.
And but I wasn't ready for the impact, so I landed like I got down the whole rail, I hangered the whole rail, and I landed like both wheels at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
And had I been ready, like had I had the presence of mind to hang out, like no, I need to hang on that tight.
Yeah.
I probably would have pulled it, but I just blew off the back.
Yeah, I
so
remember
I
that
do
one.
remember that try. I haven't really seen it since, but I remember that happening.
Fucking Eric L. I
that's
forgot he
crazy,
did that
no
one.
pegs.
Yo, the Eric L. roller coaster grind from the Sunday thing.
Oh, yeah. I
That
was
is
gonna
a
say,
fucking. We're gonna
Eric
miss
L.
so
and
many.
Eric
clips.
L. and Hoder were like pegless rail guys.
Yeah, I have
Yeah.
pegless Hodor stuff. I
They were
just for fucking
just
God damn.
make a rail
And
even
Silva
sketchier.
from Canada.
Yeah,
Chris
yeah.
Silva.
Yeah.
He's done
He
a
was
lot
dope.
of wild
Yeah.
ones.
I think he did a hanger pegless.
He did.
Yes,
Yeah.
Yes.
So what? I mean, what went wrong at El Toro? Like, what was? What
I
was?
made sort of all the mistakes you could as far as like let's see, I kicked out too soon on one of them. The one I really belly flopped, I think I kicked out too soon. I got too steep, was like super committed, which is a good thing, but that's
Yeah.
when you're on a rail that long, you got to tone it down a little bit. You can't get too Dan Lacey on it, like you
Yeah.
can't, but so that it was also, I was dead set on doing it that day, and it was getting dark, and I think it was the kind of thing where I just made, was trying to make adjustments as time was, or as tries were going by, but you only get so many tries. I think I only got a handful before I called it quits. And I think unfortunately the one where I can clearly remember like getting down, like hangering the whole thing and landing both wheels like on the ground, basically pulling it, and then my hands blew off and I blew off the back. I remember like celebrating in my head during that one.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
being like,
this is it.
being like 4 feet from the end of the rail and being like, got it.
Yeah,
Got it. And
yeah.
then boom,
Yeah.
ready. So that it's funny because when if we fast forward and go towards the rail that I ended up getting the cover from,
Yeah.
which was down somewhere
It's
around
actually
here.
it's
Yeah.
literally the closest high school to here.
Yeah. So so that
PH.
one that was like what I was thinking about the whole time.
Yeah.
Was like hang the fuck on.
Well,
Well,
the
was like because it's gonna the impact when you're hanging a rail that big is so much more than anything else. Like
Is that
so
in
much
ground?
more
Is that
than
in
ice.
grounded?
It was in a tooth hanger how to. And then
I saw
so
that video. I literally clicked over it. I was
Yeah.
like, I passed it because I was like, all right, well, whatever's
then-
in here.
yeah, it was-
and it
it
was
was a
in the
little weird.
thumbnail. I just figured it was in grounded, and now it's not.
No,
in
it
the-
was in
Tooth
it was in
hanger
something
how
else.
to,
Yeah, it was in some
Yeah.
other like.
So the
random edit or
so the
something.
scenario around that whole thing is after he fell on El Toro. It was during his interview. And basically, I don't know if we explicitly said it, but it was like, and we never really like flat out laid it, but we're like, Brian, you could like, let's get a fucking cover, dude, and the El Toro one was going to be it. And then so he was looking for another giant hanger, and drove down to him and Manzuri on a weekday, drove to Patrick Henry, and it was during the winter. And so it was like, there was just kids
Normal
and teachers
session.
like
Normal
there.
session.
Yeah.
He got one try, right?
I think so.
It was only one and
Yeah.
done. So
Yeah.
total opposite.
Yep.
So one and done. And then Brad did something too, right?
Well, Brad did something first. I think Brad like overpegged it or something like
Maybe,
that.
yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then Yeah, and then it was like, all right, it was a little bit of deja vu because Brad was trying to
It
go
was
up
dark,
the rail,
yeah.
and when you see the clip of Brad going up the rail, it's total daylight.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that kind of, it just took him time, which totally understandable. It takes time and double A pro sprint to get up that thing. But it took him a number of tries. And then, so by the time I got to my battle and we got the flashes set up and I got fired up and all that stuff, then sun was going down. So that second rail that ended up being the cover, that was a little bit of deja vu because, I was there with Brad again and he had done something and that's good because that gets me fired up.
Yeah.
You got a buddy there sending down it too. That's great. But it was also like, all right, like I better make this happen now.
Yeah.
But it was funny because on that trip I came out, or I had at least booked my ticket to try El Toro again.
Yeah.
And you're like, hey, I know you're flying out today. I was probably like at the airport if I remember right. And you're like, hey, I know you're like flying here tomorrow or whatever, but El Toro's gone.
Oh, was it that during that time?
Yeah, you're like the actual center rail's gone, so
shit.
I don't know what you want to do on this trip or whatever. And I was like, oh, okay, we'll find other stuff to film, but like as far as like
and that's what you wanted.
As far as a comparable rail of that sort of, I'd love to hang a huge one like that. And luckily you came through or whoever came through.
I don't know where we've got, but
yeah.
18 stairs, I think is that.
Yeah,
rail, so it was,
but yeah, I just remember the biggest thing, don't kick out too early and hang on.
Yeah. And
because it's funny what you think hanger, right? Like you think like maybe get on it straight and then hang over or whatever. But no, when you're doing one that long and that big, you got to like get into it like a
swerve, right?
Like a Burns or like a Levan tooth, like a
yeah.
party tooth. You got to like stick in there, kind of start shifting over to the center, and then by the end you're hanging over. So that's why I love the cover, because the cover I'm perfect where you can see. When you shot the photo, you can see I'm starting to kind of hang over. I got a little bit, but I'm not. I'm not. Like,
I was sweating that one because I think my flashes were kind of acting up every like sixth try or something. Like one of them wasn't popping, and I was like, "Fuck me, do not fuck this up."
Yeah,
so
it was a tense scenario, but we made it happen.
I don't know. Do we? I guess we can keep watching the rest of this, I guess. But
yeah, I mean, El Toro, it's great. It's great because it's.
I mean, Nathan's Over Ice is in here, so
awesome.
Kirk Shearer.
Gnarly Over Ice.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, was it Gnarly Over Ice?
Yeah.
Fuck me. I lived that one.
Really?
I can't even remember.
Yeah, Nathan Gnarly Over Ice.
I think maybe later.
Oh, he did. He did it.
Yeah, he did it. He did for Christians.
Part he came out with Christian. He Gnarly Over Ice that thing.
I was talking about the regular ice.
He over iced it, way a long time ago. I think Gnarly over iced it.
Whoa. I think I remember. Do I remember that?
It's in Why Not?
Okay.
The part him and Christian came out.
Hey, there he is.
Oh, yeah. The funny thing about nollie pegs on this, the center rail was gone already, so the side rail was the only option.
Looks like Z was there for that one.
I think so, yeah. Z and then Glenn PP.
He was like, I'm not hitting Fudger up anymore. It's a bad omen at that spot.
You know what? Because the Harrington podcast is never going to happen. Do you know about the Harrington
Barter grind?
Hangover tooth? No.
Down El Toro?
Yeah.
Did he do it?
No. Because I forgot my camera bag.
No. Oh man,
it's some
amazing.
Weird. It's some weird. It was some
that
weird.
Could have been
thing.
a blessing though.
Yeah, El Toro's a shitty hanger, to be honest.
The side ones, the front, the
well,
middle one was
if you
higher.
ask Harrington, it's my fault. So I did not do him a favor.
Yeah.
So,
shitty is in like there's better rails that are bigger. Like
there was people there. There was like it was a weekday, same thing. Like we were gonna get kicked out. I pretty much guarantee it. Mm-hmm. But like if you, I mean, he's more fucking twisting the knife in me. But but basically, like somebody like I had my shit was like switched around my normal camera bag, and it was just like. I think my camera body was in a different bag or something. So I literally drove to El Toro. I was like, shit.
Well, I remember looking at the side one too, because you were like, oh, well, maybe you could do the side one. And I was looking at it and I didn't like it because you could get robbed easily on it. Not in the traditional sense of being robbed, but you could do it perfect and your back wheel would land on grass and your front wheel would land on concrete, and you could like slide out or get that like sort of weird edger thing. I remember just thinking it would be kind of weird to land your back wheel on a hanger that big, to land your back wheel in grass, and you'd hate to do it perfect and commit all that to like
your front wheel's like right on the seam of the concrete, and then
right.
So skaters would put boards down there and stuff like that.
But yeah, I think it's rad that it's like
folklore.
Yeah, kind
Yeah.
of. And I remember the nollie pegs is a funny story too. I went skydiving with Rooftop earlier that morning, like at 6 a.m. or something like that, like some sunrise skydiving, and then I went straight to El Toro afterwards and got the nollie done before lunch.
That's a good ass day.
Yeah, it was great.
Yeah, so here's regular over ice.
Jeez, and how good he did that
Yeah.
too. I mean, Nathan does everything good. But
Oh, yeah, why did he redo it?
What do you mean?
Huh?
What do you mean?
Well, he's wearing green. I lived that one.
Okay.
And
oh
then-
yeah. Wow.
and then-
all right, dude. Do
Right?
that twice.
Is it a different...
Hmm.
It's not a different
Oh.
bike.
well,
I lived that one.
yeah.
And I don't know when that one happened. Is that fish right there?
Maybe it was a flannel issue. Because
Wasn't
it was
wasn't feeling the green.
yeah,
The color combo just wasn't really hitting. That makes sense.
it's cool, but yeah, you
Yeah.
gotta pop. You gotta
Nathan's
pop
on
some light in
that.
there.
Nathan's on that level.
No, he really is. He can do whatever the hell he wants. And he's
Peg's heart.
I think he did Peg's bar.
I live this one. I should fucking know it.
oh yeah, okay,
Yeah, Peg's
yeah,
heart.
it's great. See, I forgot about this. That's wild.
It's crazy how Brad opening the door to like going up, just like
Yeah.
you know, like
Same with Patrick Henry. Like they both opened it up that day because
Yeah.
Lewis has gone up to whip now,
Yeah.
and a million other tricks
Yep.
have been done down that rail.
That's crazy.
Like every trick.
savage.
Dang. Yeah, Ian Morris is another one who paved the way as
I
far as
know,
big rails.
yeah.
Like, and it's I'm sure I mean everyone knows who's been in BMX for that long knows Ian's a legend, and
Yeah.
he's definitely in England. People know of him more, but
Boom.
man, he's done some huge stuff.
Yeah, I'll throw a couple clips in. He has massive rails,
Way back,
backwards rails before people were even like thinking it was possible. Like,
Oh yeah.
So
I can picture one where he's suited up like a gladiator.
yeah,
He's gonna-
yeah.
for
Literally,
good-
somebody
for-
else is like putting his helmet on
yeah,
for him.
for good reason.
It's like 16-minute long.
Yeah, I don't know if we need to watch the whole thing,
Yeah, we
but
got other
Yeah.
stuff to watch.
Yeah.
We
Well,
talked
so-
about El Toro. It's been murdered. Watch the dig
Yeah.
video. They already made this video for us.
right, cool.
Stevie trucked it.
Stevie trucked it.
Dig, hollowed. What is it? Hollowed by name?
Hollowed ground.
Hollowed ground. El Toro to 6.
Um,
Yeah, those are really cool features.
Yeah.
that they
Yeah.
do those.
Yeah, you can
I
go
don't
and
think
watch
they've done
it.
one in a long time. So Van Homan, we have to talk about.
Van
so he-
Homan.
Van
God of the
inspired
streets.
inspired me so much with like especially with the gap to rail stuff.
Mhm.
And I mean, gosh, just his riding style in general. Even though we do ride a little different, but like a lot of the, especially Seek and Destroy. I actually had a part from a video that Daryl Now made before that called Trailblazing, which I think he had some good street clips.
Mostly
in.
dirt though,
But-
right?
yeah,
Yeah.
sort of. But he might have had some good street clips in. But yeah, Seek and Destroy, and then obviously Criminal Mischief. Like those two are
Yeah.
like right. they're like ingrained in me, And I think his.
I look like he grabbed his brakes right when he landed in the
Yeah.
manual. That was bad.
Fucking blood all over him.
Yeah. I mean, him and I definitely
Another
because now
montage
we're
of just
like-
random stuff.
Yeah,
Nice.
just because we're
Van
good friends
Homan
and
montage.
we've hung out. Oh, I told him to do that.
Really?
I'm proud of that. Yeah, I was like I saw.
Dude, just
this
thought
was
it-
in the this was in the time of, you could pause it for a second. This is like in the time of social media, so I saw that they were on a trip in Salt Lake, and I had just been there for some like finger bike thing. You remember those, the finger bike toys?
Yeah,
The,
lucrative, I'm sure.
not really, but really cool, really cool. I mean, because like
That is so far.
yeah, but I looked at it and we got kicked out, and I can't say that I was going to do it that day, but I sort of in my mind
Yeah.
had the intention to. But when I saw Van I was like, hey, I see you're in Salt Lake. I'm not sure when I'm going to be back there. Like, I kind of want to do this, but I'm
not sad.
Like,
Yeah.
I basically said like, please do it, because I was like, it needs to be done, and you're the dude, and I would be, like so hyped and honored if you did it. And it was funny because I think he had already looked at it, and he was like, I was kind of debating it, but then when you told me to do it, like I was like, yeah. So, I mean, obviously Van gets 99.9% of that credit.
Yeah.
but I like to
I'll take a
just,
little
like,
bit.
Yeah. I love to see that clip just because I'm like, I can recall specifically the text messages and phone calls, like, yeah, get it done, man.
And then I saw Sean Mack come in on that, the rail to rail, and other Various is another one that we should
Yeah.
mention. At least give him a little shout out. Probably the biggest rail to rail that's
man.
ever been
Talking
done.
about the one he did, I think it was in England?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Brighton ain't ready. Yeah, is where he was on shrooms or something.
Dude, that story, the story of him telling
He did that crazy red one too, and it's in, I think, in Vegas.
I think it's in Holy Fit as well, right?
Yeah, where it's
Yeah.
massive. It's like
Yeah.
a 30 stair,
Insane.
30 stair.
To
or
like really
something.
got to pop to the next one.
Yeah.
The red one in Vegas. Yeah, that one's Sean Mack.
Shout out to Brakes for this one.
Another
Probably wouldn't
rail
have been
destroyer.
possible
Oh,
without
yeah.
like that. The Van also the king of the straight over.
Yes, and that's always been something that I've like really been impressed with. Is like the straight over manual stuff. Like I've only done straight over manual rails. I've done so many rail manuals, but only straight over when it's been a gapped
That
rail.
was sick.
Oh, this one is.
That was
so
first
beautiful.
try.
Yep.
God, it's insane.
He had
He's
everyone
really
set up.
Crazy, man. The thing about Van, you know, he's so absolute. Like when he's gonna do something,
Yeah.
he's just like,
We rewound like 15 years, but
yeah. And this was the stuff that I started seeing that really inspired
like the
me.
rail, the way this rail wobbles,
Oh, I love it.
like, it's
Yeah,
such a good clip when I was a kid.
yeah. So much good.
It's funny because
stuff.
that rail's still there, and it's like as sturdy as a rock.
Is it?
Yeah,
Oh yeah, you were just in Philly.
yeah, and that rail's like seeing the wobble. It's like, whoa, they fixed the rail and left it.
This one,
Ooh.
poor rail.
Yeah,
I bet that rail's not
that was
there.
his last. Yeah, that
Yeah.
had to be the last go. Yeah, Van, and then you think about like the Duster, Derek Duster, and all that
Yeah,
stuff too.
I think it's in there.
Which I was actually thinking about. Big Daddy did some really crazy.
He did some good ones too.
Crazy
There's so many
backwards ones and
dudes.
stuff.
Yeah, it's. I mean, this is not meant to be.
Martinez
and
with the half
let me put the.
to ice. Like, God, we're never gonna.
Let me put the let me put the warning over top where it says this is not meant to be comprehensive. Everybody that did
Of course,
everything.
yeah,
that
yeah.
This podcast
We
would be
apologize.
like-
We
Yeah.
apologize. Like
Yeah.
the
7 months long.
the
Yeah.
100 people we missed because
Yeah.
there's been so many people that have pushed.
I mean,
handrail riding.
this was the first Duster, right?
I think so.
I mean, it was called. So does
remember-
Derek Adams got credit for inventing it because it's called Derek Duster, right?
Yeah.
But Van was probably the first one
I
to
think
do it
he
on
did
a real
like
rail.
a flat rail at a skate park
Yeah.
or something like that. Yeah, which is crazy.
That
That
was
was
the teeter totter
It's-
of it.
That's what's so
That's a
wild
beastly
is
ass
that
trick.
To
You just
imagine
lean
that
back.
would work.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that's
Yeah.
the kind of stuff that
The thing
you
is,
can
I feel like
watch.
no matter how good you get at that trick, it still doesn't work.
But like, look at.
That's
I mean,
why no one does it. Like,
obviously
it's like
the-
a 50% trick.
obviously the bikes are way different now. But like, he's back peg, bottom bracket, back peg up
Yeah, no, it goes back. You have to lean back so far.
to basic ice.
Yeah.
To nose
I
bump.
mean, Mickey
to nose
Fleck,
bump
Mickey
planner.
Fleck just had a banger, and he puts out sick parts, and his banger was a Derek Duster on a rail about that big.
Yeah,
It just shows
yeah.
how sketchy Derek Dusters are
Yep.
still.
Yeah.
Like, no one's really mastered them. Someone probably has. They're going to be like, you dick. But I,
gotta
haven't seen someone
gotta
really
share
master a
something
Derek
that-
Dusters on
let's
huge
hear it.
rails.
I got to share something that I think is pretty funny. Just Van, and sorry Van if you're offended that I'm telling this story, but it's meant as a compliment. But Lewis Mills did a manual to gap to rail in his last Fiend video, and it was insane. It was like,
Oh, yeah,
and it
yeah,
was, really, really good. And I was like, man, I'm like, he did I was talking to Van, like we were just talking about how crazy it was, and I was like, he did a manual to gap to rail midsection. It wasn't even like close to his banger, you know. It was just like in the middle of his part thrown in. I couldn't believe it. And Van was like, well, yeah, it better have been. He's like, I did that shit 20 years ago. He's like, I was over 20 years ago. I would hope that it would be one upped by now or something like that. But it was
mid-pack, yeah.
obviously two totally different
Yeah.
scenarios too. Like,
Well, even when
the-
Lewis did that,
but-
though, everyone was like, that was so Van Homan. Like,
Yeah.
you know, like
Yeah,
instant
yeah.
respect
Yeah.
to Van Homan when
Yeah.
he did that. It was
but
like,
it is pretty wild, and it goes back to like I remember wondering if gnarly stuff was kind of whack because I started doing some gnarly tricks and like gnarly gap, like I did gnarly gap to rail on the UCI Kinker, and like, you know, whatever, gnarly hanger, gnarly ice, all that kind of stuff. And I remember wondering because I didn't see dudes like him or at least right away I didn't see dudes like him or Nathan even or Garrett, like people like that. I
Pick
didn't
up
see
on
them,
it.
I didn't see them copying it at all
Yeah.
for a little while, and I was like, is it whack? I was like, is it stupid? Like, is that why they're not doing it?
Yeah.
I was,
No,
like,
it's just
I was
kinda
like, I was like
crazy.
kind of hoping like, well, maybe I would like inspire, you know, and then of course like they ended up doing it and ended up.
It just
but
took longer. It
was
took
kinda-
longer than
it was
you
kinda
expected.
funny because I always thought it was cool because I saw like dudes like Butcher and Lucky do some gnarly some gnarly tricks like onto ledges and stuff like that. And yeah, it was funny because I always just was wondered if it was whack for a little while.
No, I feel like it was just so gnarly. And then Mike Jonas came around.
Oh yeah,
And then he was like, "Oh, nollies are like he like changed the game." Well, you already did it, and then Mike Jonas was like, "I like nollies," and then I feel like after that, people started being like, "All right, like
because it is
finally started messing with it." But yeah, there was a huge gap between you and
it's
Jonas where people weren't really.
Yeah, it's a lot of commitment too, but it's one of those things like totally.
You got to practice and figure
totally
out
within your guys' skill realm though. But it's kind of funny when I think back to that because there was a little
The self-doubt,
there was an era of like self consciousness. They're like, do I do it too much? Is that shit whack? I don't know.
Yeah.
No,
I
definitely
get it.
not whack. No one was thinking that.
Oh,
Rail to rail. What was the first rail to rail? Was it Miron?
Yo, there's the manual cap to rail.
It could have been because he did one in that ride interview.
Yeah.
But this wouldn't have been far after that. Yeah, this is just like.
I remember Gary and I went and
crazy.
like practiced just like the idea of like manually in a sidewalk and then jumping afterwards, and we're like,
yeah.
no fucking way.
Yeah.
No fucking way is it possible.
And didn't we have to do this again? Didn't the footage get stolen or lost or glitched or something?
I don't know. Ask
I don't know.
Navaz.
Yeah, but I mean, either way, it's insane.
Ask them
and it's still
love to do a
credit
podcast
to,
with Navaz.
credit to
Yeah,
Van,
he's a
a
man.
little different realm than even what Lewis did recently.
Yeah.
Lewis's
Yeah.
manual was like he was hanging on to the manual for a long time
Yeah.
and then which is gnarly in itself and kind of a whole different animal.
Yeah, but still,
this
no
is
one's
like,
done a manual like literally,
Tap.
no one's done
Nobody's done
that
that.
on
No.
like
Yeah.
a setup like that
Yeah.
I can ever think of.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really.
And did you
wild.
see? Have you seen the raw footage of this?
Yes,
It gets posted like every once in a while, where it's
I
like
can't. Yeah,
it's just
Remind me.
it's nothingness. It's literally, I guess Garrett is filming it, and like Van was just like feeling it that day, and was like, oh, here you go, come film this, and it's like he literally just like does a manual gap like a few times, and then he's like, okay, and then just like
Kinda
does
like
it, and
manual
it's,
gap firecracker. Sort of thing.
and like,
Jeez.
and it's just so like this is a monumental moment,
Yeah.
and it's so mellow and just like like any other day.
Garrett's like kind of a mellow dude,
Yeah.
minus his riding. Garrett, talking about Garrett Burns, right?
Yes.
Yeah, Garrett Burns. He'd probably just like, that was awesome, Van.
Yeah,
like, you know,
it's
like
so
that.
mellow. It's so like
Right.
anticlimactic, I think is the word I was looking
Yeah,
for. Where
yeah.
you're like, you just expect like, oh my fucking
Oh, yeah, if
god,
you were
in
to-
the camera and
Yeah,
stuff,
if
and
you were
it's
to
like,
compare that moment compared to everyone's living room when they were watching this
Yeah.
for the first time, and you have like 10 dudes on the couch watching this video, and just like everyone's mind
it is
blown when they see it.
exactly
It's-
that.
Yeah. It's so crazy.
I don't know if there's more. Nope, no more Van. Oh, slow mo. Insane.
Yeah.
I'd love. Is that rail still there?
Yeah, you can't
got-
talk about rail gods without putting Van Homan on
No,
that list.
Definitely not.
Yeah.
I mean, I would say most people would put Van at the top of their list as far as like, just that style.
Yeah, and there,
So,
but there also is apples and oranges because
Yeah.
like, I mean, some of
You can't compare Van to Nathan,
no, definitely
Yeah.
not.
and you can't compare Nathan to Alex D. It's like,
Oh, yeah.
like
Yeah.
there's so, or then there's Jordan Godwin, like
Yeah.
I'm just gonna
Lewis Garrett,
which that's what I love. It's like so
Demarcus
many,
oversmithing like 20 stair rails.
Yeah.
Like everyone's just.
that hasn't
yeah.
come out yet.
you just
Who knows if
it's-
he did that or not? I don't know if he did that or not.
Christian.
Yeah, but just it's
Christian.
amazing how people's minds turn and how their minds work differently. You know, just could be on the same piece of pipe that goes down some steps. You know, it's
Piece
like-
of pipe.
yeah,
Piece
it's
of
like
pipe.
just so it's all you know.
So I love we're
like
gonna
all
talk
it
for like
is.
2 hours about a thing that most people just never look at. You know,
Yeah.
they might grab it, get their hand dirty because we'd waxed it or something.
I always like the visual of when like a dude we get out of the van and start like touching it and shaking it.
Yep.
And stuff like
Tapping your
that.
peg
And how
on
it,
it.
yeah, and how it looks to other people. Like just like a bunch of Neanderthals. Like
Yeah.
so
What are these humans
Well,
doing?
you know, it's funny because the rail yesterday, Albert and I got there first, and like a Suburban pulls up, and literally like, no joke, there was more skaters than there were seats in the park in it, and they start piling out.
You're just like,
and they're just
clown
coming
car.
to do the same thing that we are. Like we didn't have our bikes out either. We were just like looking at the rail, and they just came to do the same thing.
That's
They
why those
just
little
walked
perfect
up, and
rails
it was
don't
like-
last long.
Yeah.
They're just bands of humans coming
Yeah.
to session them.
I hit him with the dibs as soon as they got out. I was
Mine.
like, dibs.
Did you?
Yeah.
Isn't it amazing too that just because like I've designed some skate parks and designed some rails and stuff like that, like most of these famous rails, El Toro, for example, whoever built it, they didn't ride, they didn't skate.
Yeah.
They just were someone who built a handrail, who just put it together, you know, welded it together and did a great job, obviously, and built something perfect, but it was never intended, you know, but sometimes it always kind of baffles me. It's like, that's probably most rails and most famous spots out there. They're just, people would have never ever thought that all of this crazy stuff, it's kind of like something that's seen around the world sort of thing, you know, all this crazy stuff that's seen
this
around
rail
the
some
world
guy
that
designed has made
have
people
traveled
famous in action
literally
sports
from
and put
different
dozens of people in the hospital.
yeah, that too. But people have traveled from different continents to ride this piece of pipe that some guy just made it work.
Look at this piece of pipe someone designed.
Oh yeah,
Put a V in it.
oh my god, yeah. Like,
It'd be so fun to design handrails,
right?
Yeah, that's amazing. Why did you even do that?
They should put the V
I
upside
love it.
down so you could fucking pull jam.
Why not?
Yes.
Oh my god!
That's a good idea,
Somebody contact
actually.
this guy.
Yeah.
If you know how to
So-
weld,
That's
you
so
can
beautiful.
just
Rob DeQuattro.
Rob.
So
D.
this is the reason why I pulled this, because I want to
He's
talk
sick.
about braking rails,
Oh yeah.
and because you mentioned welds.
Yes.
So this is one of the clips that I thought of. Is an amazing clip.
Did he even know that thing fell down?
I don't think he did.
That is incredible.
How good is that?
Like, it really doesn't get any better than that.
And the spot's so much sicker now. Like,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's actually better
he
now.
made a sicker
Yeah.
spot.
Yeah,
Like,
look at that.
As far as humans needing that piece to
Yeah.
walk, they don't need that.
Yeah, he did. He actually improved it.
Yeah.
Pulled it. It's like that's a win-win-win-win.
That's it.
So the interesting thing about this one is that
Whoever designed
now
that
that
rail
I
didn't do a
see
very
it
good
happen,
job.
obviously I see it could be a concern, but I wouldn't look at that and be worried about it. There are things though that I would be worried about, and that's like kind of like what we were talking yesterday, when there's a rail with a kink at the end or a kink anywhere and there's not a support, like an actual support, like we're talking like structural integrity wise, like when there's not a support at that kink or at that junction, that's where they break, and that's where they can break.
You got to check those.
Yeah.
Because, man, when you hanger through one of those things and they break.
This is what he's talking about right here.
Yeah, kids, check your kinks. Because,
Well, and
Yeah.
this one's
I don't know
interesting too, because
oh, God, it's going to break. Oh! All right, people who don't
That's
know.
so
If you're grinding rails,
lucky.
you check
yeah, and
check that shit out.
and it's funny because I'd ridden that rail a bunch before,
Yeah.
and I'd obviously checked it before we rode that day, but I didn't have time to check it.
Was that you?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and I was following Aaron. I think Aaron was right before me, or who? I think
Oh,
it,
yeah, it
it
was Aaron.
Yeah, dude.
And you know, obviously, we were training it.
I
And
like
I
how
think
your,
it needs to
your
be
bars
upright
go straight
underneath
through.
the kink.
To it, yeah,
Or you better check
So
that thing
you were
every grind.
completely uninjured.
yeah,
Like, as
more
far
or
as-
less.
yeah.
I think my bars or something hit my keys in my pocket, and that's why I have my keys in my hand. Actually, I took my keys out because I'm like, I think the rail actually hit my keys or something, or my bar end did.
It's also impressive that Dugan can pick you up like that.
Yeah, well, he's a strong guy,
He is a strong guy.
especially when he's
Skinny,
fired up.
but he's strong.
Yeah, so now I don't even mess with rails like that, like rails that don't have a support right there.
Yeah,
at
I always
the
see people
bottom.
like charging them, doing up rails. I'm like, just check
I-
that thing out, man. You're gonna break it. And they're like, what are you talking about? I'm like, dude, there's no support right there, and you're hitting it with like 1,000 pounds of pressure every time.
Yeah,
It
and
is,
I
yeah.
hangered that rail twice because once I did it for a photo during the day, and then we thought it would look cool lit up at night. So I had hangered that rail previous to that, and if that would have happened on a hanger,
Oh my
like
God,
it would have been
dude.
terrible.
This one's notable as well. I'm
Yeah.
sure there's a lot more than I can think of
Yeah,
but
That was so sick.
yeah.
yeah. Amazing, amazing.
If you're gonna destroy
Yep.
property, you might as well get the best clip ever. doing
Right.
it.
Yeah,
Could have made it better too. Wall right up.
It was
now.
amazing. Yeah.
yeah.
A couple times at least.
And another
Yeah,
rail
so-
that for normal humans, they don't need that.
So
thing.
when
That
somebody
is-
so how do you check a rail?
That is, I think it is important. I mean, you just got to, unfortunately, sometimes you just got to learn the hard way, but I'm hoping people watch this and kind of see things like this and sort of learn like, hey, maybe don't mess with that rail if it looks like this or that. Or, you know, obviously when you first walk up to it, you put your hand on it like you would walking up any handrail and kind of
Like
give
any
it like give it a shake and like make sure that it is going to withstand whatever you want to do on it. But there are ways to fix it. So you showed a clip of me earlier. I was going down this like white triple kinker, and what you can't see is the 40 wooden stakes I had from Home Depot just in my car for the right moment, because I bring little tricks of the trade like that. But there were so many uprights, and they were all kind of rusted and broken at the bottom of this rail that I knew I wasn't going to be necessarily in danger if it broke, but it was going to be really hard to stay on with how wobbly it was. Yeah. So I just took these like wooden shims, and I just like hammered them in one by one into the grass, because the rail was luckily into the grass and or supported in the grass, and I just like hammered them in one by one and just shoved them in there in all the supports all the way up and down. Obviously the first part of the rail is probably the most important, because if you jump on that and it's wobbly, that's going to throw off your whole balance. Once you get to the end, by that point you're kind of usually beelining to whatever. So if the end shakes, it's usually not as big of a deal. But yeah, like check the metal, see if it's like, after a while, I think you learn like what's good hard steel and what's not. And like if it's like aluminum or plastic or, all those sort of things, like the aluminum rails in general are garbage. So
if you have plastic though, with wax,
with plastic bags
amazing.
Are all right. But
it is worth giving it a good look.
Just things you'll learn. Like
even
aluminum with plastic with some wax slides great. Aluminum and metal, you're probably going to dent it and flip over your bars.
Yeah.
Or they have like the razor blade little square rails that if you don't have hub guards, you're dead. Like, you need hub guards. Like there's a lot of
also
things.
like contrary to
is my phone over there?
Like contrary to popular belief, you don't want to.
Thank you.
I don't want to break someone's rail. You know what I mean? Like I want it to survive what I want to do on it, and then what everyone else.
The
wants to
less
do
rails
on it,
that break, and the less spots we messed up, the longer street riding isn't going to become an extinct thing.
Exactly.
Because they're getting better and better at stoppers and like learning how
they're
to
getting smarter.
Yeah, especially in Southern California, like they build schools, and you're like, whoa, they really did a good job making this not fun.
Isn't it awesome though when you find exceptions? And I feel like maybe you find less exceptions out here, but at home sometimes they build new stuff that's like incredible. Like perfect steel rails with
I think as long as people clean up the spots and don't destroy things, like it'll go
I always
longer.
think that, and let's go handrails aside and just street riding in general, and you could even say just riding in general. Like be like a good golfer and replace your divot. Like
exactly.
If you move a garbage can out
leave
of the way,
that shit exactly how it was, and no one even knows you're there.
You move a garbage can out of the way, move it back. Don't leave trash there. Don't be an asshole. Like because that security guard.
We don't want street riding to be extinct one day.
That security guard will then like take it out on the next people they see. So when you walk up to somewhere to ride a spot.
Here's another. I'm pretty sure he did this thin metal.
Yeah, whole crew just wrecks the school, leaves beers and stuff everywhere.
Right.
Thin. It's like you ruined it for the next.
The thin rail gets.
What, the uprights?
Yeah, I think he like put his cranks down or something, but just the way he.
It's another thing, kids. When the rail's really skinny, do not put that pedal down to your crank.
We talked about yesterday.
Yeah, this one's crazy because we were just there and I saw this rail and I was like, that's gonna break.
Oh,
well.
Bonus,
went up it,
bonus rails manual.
Yeah,
and
then there was
that guy's swaggy.
Another clip,
Jack O'Leary.
Oh my god! Of course that was gonna happen.
Right. I was actually super hyped. I was super
just the way he
hyped
looks off yonder.
I was super hyped to see not only that he got away with the second one, but that he got the first one done.
Yeah.
Because I didn't think it would survive one try, but he made it up to 180.
Oh, sick.
Yeah. It was in it's like an abandoned, burned down building too. So, I
mean, I think if you know it's going to break, though, you could also be a little more like on your toes.
Exactly. But it's definitely tricky. I forgot about the pedal, putting your pedal down kind of thing. Like that's one that'll get
when
you
you're trying to balance it, and then
that'll get you on kinkers too, because on kinked rails you need to make sure that like the kinks aren't too steep.
Grab your bottom bracket.
Can grab your bottom bracket. You can dig your front into, and it's. Yeah, it's funny. I'll find grind marks after riding a kinked rail. I'll find grind marks on like my bottom bracket and my crank arm and stuff like that I didn't even realize. I was like, I never did a crank arm grind. What something like this? But
there's a lot of little things to learn, and that just kind of goes with you got to start jumping on the rails.
Yeah,
and it's good to have some friends that know, like that. They'll tell you some tips, so you don't have to go through that on your own.
Yeah, definitely.
We'll run through a couple of Martinez square run clips. Obviously, most people know what's coming, but.
It's funny after a while too. You get so good at looking at or knowing what rails work and what don't. Like I can just drive by at normal speed and see a 60/40 rail now or something and be like
Driving down the freeway, you're like,
well,
boom.
no, or actually any rail and be like, oh, that's good, or that would work, or that's worth investigating at least, or no, that's garbage. And you're like driving down the street and you just glance at it and you know it's garbage just because of how long you've been looking at rails and stuff. But
you'll see something that's like stopping the fun.
But yeah, exactly. But it it is. It's
sick,
kind of a
sick legendary one.
It's an interesting skill.
Dude.
Oh, that was another melter when I saw it. You're just like, what is next? What?
What else do we have in here? Rails into grass, do they count?
So I mean, I personally would prefer to not, and I've definitely done some into grass and been happy about it, but I would, and just personal rule to me, I would say like I wouldn't consider it as legit for myself.
Yeah.
It definitely counts because you still did it and you can still get broke off. I don't think it maybe doesn't quite feel as satisfying for some reason, but I wouldn't say that I don't know. I wouldn't say that it doesn't count. In my personal book, it's kind of like a, and I have there's no rules to street riding, obviously, but like in my personal book, it's almost like a little deduction. Like, yeah, I did it, but it was kind of, it was into grass and whatever. But other things, there's certain setups you can't find that aren't into grass. So I don't know, go ahead and do it. What I'm more picky about myself is getting off the end of a rail. Like, I don't like to come off a rail early if I don't have to. I like to I like to basically get all the way off the end and like
shoot out.
Especially if there's a kink, feel the ta-toon, come all the way off. Obviously, clearing the stairs.
Don't come early.
Yeah,
that's what you're saying.
Yeah, and basically. That makes it more
a sex joke, Dennis.
That makes it.
I was trying to process what the hell you were talking about.
Yeah.
What the fuck?
Yeah. Just getting all the way to the end of the rail, I think is definitely more satisfying than
understandable.
Not finishing the job. So,
craziest rail ever, almost.
Yeah.
Is it possible? Shout out Callan Stibbards because my question is,
what was he doing?
Is it possible?
I don't know. He tried it.
I mean,
everything about this is crazy. It's not even safe. Look at those things on the side if he came off early. Like, it's not even safe.
Right.
It's not even like, this is a chill rail to try. It's way too big
dude,
to ever think about.
I mean,
just so much respect for this dude really trying this.
Seriously.
What the fuck?
At the same time, I was kind of like, and I'm one to like, I love like scary, crazy stuff. I was kind of almost like, but it's funny because Callan, I've actually hung out with Callan since, and he's like the awesomest.
Sphinx were broke either way.
On the left side.
I know.
Yeah.
That would be the reason enough to not try.
Exactly.
To try this.
I would never try.
No, it's
even
like, the other side's like, all right, that's a little safer at least. Like, it's still not safe by any means.
Put a pillow in front of him or something.
Yeah, whatever, man.
Get a blanket.
Get a mattress. Get a mattress right there. Like,
nobody would say, "Oh man, he did that whole rail," but he put a mattress right next to those fucking.
Dude, look at that thing, man. It's so. I mean, I'm sure that just felt incredible, like cruising down.
Shout out to Callan and another rail lord would be Calvin.
Yes,
Calvin.
Yeah, absolutely.
The straight over crook.
Yeah,
I tried to download. Is it in Champagne?
I don't remember.
I think it is Champagne.
Look at this.
I did just see it. He just posted it on Instagram not too long ago.
I love this dude's riding.
Oh, Callan's so crazy.
He had that other wall ride clip like gapped over into like a thing, into like a
gap
fucking
to splat down into like a second level. Yeah.
Dude.
He's super talented.
Or into like a parking garage. Yeah, he's such a
now we're
beast,
just watching
man.
it because everybody I forget there was a whole video part attached to the rail thing.
It's an amazing part too. Callan's so sick.
I love that.
That
Shout
could
out to Vic Ayala.
Yeah.
Vic Ayala is. But the thing about that is, so I had a situation recently where I was doing a sort of unique big rail, like unique 60/40 sort of big rail, and I was just going too fast, and I'm not going too fast, like speeding onto it. I was actually creeping onto it, and like especially by my standards, like I was really creeping, like barely going fast enough to hop onto this thing. But by the time I got to the bottom, I was cruising too fast. So in regards to that Callan clip, I think if he were to do, he probably just played it. I'm sure he just played it as a live. He didn't wax it or anything. He didn't do anything. He didn't put any special pegs on.
Yeah.
But like, I was just thinking for myself, if I go back to this rail that didn't go so well a year or two ago, then I want to try it again. I'm like, I'm going to bring some sort of different peg that is going to, or I'm at least going to rough up the rail a little bit.
No, it makes sense.
As opposed to, and that's kind of that scenario. It's like, yeah, if he got a hold of some like, I don't know, abrasive peg, like one that, or like put sandpaper on one of the pegs or something, or grip tape. Like,
he didn't
I don't know,
He down that rail.
He probably,
dude. He's like, I don't care.
Everyone's sort of rules are different.
He's
whatever.
like, whatever.
But yeah, it seemed like that rail gave him so much speed. That, yeah, even if he comes off the end, like
he probably waxed it. He's like, I want everything out of this rail.
I don't know, man. Yeah, make sure you got brand new bars, brand new forks, brand new everything. Yeah, because you need everything for that. But
Lazy, this was my pick for like one of the craziest rails ever done.
Yeah. And this isn't even this next clip, but let's throw this ice in there.
Yeah.
Jeez, look at that.
This video, they went to Portugal and just destroyed.
Yeah.
Portugal has a lot of good rails.
There's one area of the city that's just filled with amazing rails.
Yeah. It's like,
sorry, I have a 6-hour timeline now with all the shit I downloaded. So
yeah, no worries. Yeah, you're talking about the triple kink.
Yeah.
This whole video, this part and this whole video is amazing.
He's so good.
BSD DVD is this? What's the name of this one?
Transmission.
Yeah.
It's funny how much I feel like I'm not a video nerd, and then we talk about stuff, and I'm like, oh yeah, that one at the school in Albuquerque, like stuff like that, and I'm like, oh, I am a nerd.
Oh yeah, this is the one.
This is just like, after watching Callan's, nothing's crazy anymore, I guess.
I mean, it is crazy.
That is so
I remember seeing this.
sick,
and
dude.
you know what?
The pole too,
the
same
poles
thing.
at the
Yeah,
bottom,
this is like, it's not as crazy as the one Callan tried, but it's up there with
It
just.
is.
I mean, it is
ridiculous.
totally up there.
It's up there.
And he's in complete control the
Yes.
entire time. And I always wonder if he intended to
could've
do
made
the
it.
ice.
Yeah.
Jake made a really good behind the scenes on this.
Oh,
too.
did he?
Like the El Toro we were watching, it's a whole behind the scenes. It's really good. He put work into this, and
It was a lot of tries, right?
I think so.
It's crazy. All of NASA clapped for him afterwards too.
Yeah. Well, might as well.
Did he intend to do the ice?
I can't remember that, but everything, it was so calculated and amazing,
Yeah.
and he just laced it.
It just seemed
I
like
would
he's
kind of
so in
think-
It's one of my
control that
favorite
he's
rail
like,
clips ever,
he's like,
dude.
oh fuck it, I'll do
Lazy.
the ice.
Yeah. I would think
going so fast, might as well just.
Yeah.
Then you're so locked in.
I did a rail at a hospital in Puerto Rico, actually, on a trip a long time ago that was like that, but one less stage. It was like a triple kinker. And when I actually got when I got to the last stage, I just anticipated pegging the whole thing. When I got to the last part, I didn't have the presence of mind to think ice, so I was just going for pegs, and I like whiffed the peg. So if you were to picture that, like if Leezy would have just tried to peg, so he would have actually had to like pull down. So yeah, it might have been. It was funny. I went back like a year later and after watching the clip and being like, yeah, I got to ice. There's no other choice.
Yeah.
When I saw that, I was like, yeah, you probably had no other choice.
Adam Gundian.
Oh yeah,
He's amazing. I love this dude's riding.
Yeah.
Just met him in Philly for the first time.
He's sick.
Super cool.
Yeah, he does a lot of like
I watched
creative, burly.
I watched him throw a hay bale like 12 feet in the air and it landed on his own head on purpose. At Swamp Fest, of course.
Yeah, this one's a good one.
Yeah.
Bone Death videos are so entertaining. They just came out with that summer boogie or something, and I feel like it's
It
so
sucks because YouTube like YouTube like demonetized them because of the stuff in between.
It's so entertaining though. It's like between the riding, all the lifestyle stuff is just
pulled in by a truck to go up the rail.
Yeah.
And this is what you guys are talking about, the fucking bomber ones.
Yeah.
that's a
Yeah,
bomber.
these are the kind that just
Boom.
when you land,
That side shot is just 45 degrees.
I love it.
So sick.
Yeah,
When you
he's
land,
dope.
you're
He's
so
in- he's
hyped,
in-
but at the same time, it doesn't necessarily feel
Dude,
like
killing the rails right now.
Almost never feels smooth.
Yeah.
When it's that steep. But it does. It's like that accomplishment,
The Christian,
That's so good.
the Christian sent me a photo. It's gone.
Which one?
This rail. It got, well, not gone. Apparently a tree branch fell on it and broke it. He thinks.
Peter Adam convinced me to do some intro where the whole team was supposed to do an intro, and I got stuck being like the only one to do this intro thing, and I did not know it was going to be like that, and I'm forever sorry to Christian for Pete doing that to the beginning of his part. I was so fucked up, Pete. Like Christian's best part ever, and you made some crazy intro in front of it. The fuck?
I think you're the only one that thinks that.
No, Christian thinks that.
Oh, all right.
And it's Christian's part. Me and Christian both think that, and it's like the weirdest thing ever. When the video came out, I was like, "Oh my god!"
I want to.
What did you do, Pete?
I want to mention: is there a better feeling than an outside curved grind like he does in the middle of this?
I don't know if I've ever done a proper one like that. There's one. There's actually one in National City that near the Brad Sims Epic Wall Ride. It has knobs on it, but I want to actually denob it and do
any
it.
rail that curves like that, at least to me, always feels so awesome.
It looks it's so good. It looks so fun.
It feels like going around a berm and you're just hooked in there, and it's like meant to be sort of. So
There's
when I saw this clip, I was
just
like, man, that
super
must
wide
awesome.
that you can just crank at, and it's like safe.
Oh, really?
Grass. It's just like a fun. Just try it until you eventually get it.
How many tries was this? Do you know?
This was like a 3-day thing.
3 days. That makes sense.
Christian he's
Dedication.
so dedicated in everything he does.
So this rail, this is specifically the rail I was talking about. This is like the biggest rail in San Diego.
There's
Like as far as straight rails.
I'm gonna send you a picture. I got 3 of those. Hey,
Three of those?
Go to Grossmont Center.
Okay,
Right down
I
the
will.
street. I'm like, come on, man. It's like your local mall.
Yeah, you don't really see these.
They're in the parking lot.
as often.
Yeah. Those are big rails.
No, big.
Yeah. But
Even in the Midwest, you'll see some.
Yeah, but I
some
mean,
big
like,
hogs like
they,
this.
they don't make. There's
Big
no
hogs,
rails like this being made at schools. That's more my point.
That's
they
a good point.
exist.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
still
is that,
there, but
like
they're-
when they're
they're
making
dying.
new stuff, they're like 8 flat 8. Like
Yeah,
that's true.
I'm pretty much, this is no actual knowledge, but I would put money on the line that there's like an ordinance for new construction that there's a cap on the height there is before there has to
At
be a
least in
flat
California.
in
Oh, yeah.
California. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm
That's
saying more than anything. Not that they don't
Valid point.
exist, but like
That's what's so interesting. I always wondered why kinked rails existed, because I was like, why did they use this extra concrete and use this extra pipe to make this kink where they could have just made like one
long,
In case an
long
ordinary
set of stairs.
person falls
And
and
there
get
is,
caught.
yes,
Yeah.
I have
Yeah.
actually researched it and gone down like a Google
safer.
rabbit hole a little
Yeah.
bit. Yeah, apparently, and
Yeah.
they kind of give you a break in between, sort of. But yeah, it makes sense. You know, if you're gonna fall downstairs, you just fall down.
Like if you
8
fell
and
down
then,
this, just
and then hit a platform
falling down a
before you fall,
pyramid.
you know,
Yeah.
before you fall down the other 8 instead of falling down.
and this is the
16.
sketchiest photo that I've ever shot. You look, Christian cut out the fence. I was with him because we were doing that article, the mod article, and there's somebody that lives right there. And I literally, I was so sketched out. I went and pulled out $500 from the ATM because I was like, I just don't want to go to jail. So when somebody comes and they're like, "You're fucking out of here," I was like, I'll just pay him $500. Like I pull out like $100 or $200 like occasionally when I feel like a little sketched out, like, oh, maybe I can pay somebody and get
Yeah.
out of it. And I was like,
It was, you know, why-
$500
You
is
know
what
why
I'm
you did
looking
that? You know why you probably did that? It was probably around the time when we were going to Russia and we had to like pay off security guards to ride spots.
Yeah.
Or the locals
Yeah.
did. Do you remember
yeah,
that?
it is. I've offered up.
Let me talk to him.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, give him some rubles and you guys can stay and ride for a couple
This
hours.
is stressful though, dude. I thought we were going to.
That's a
fucking
big
jail.
boy.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So is a roller coaster rail in this one?
Yep.
That's the one I was mostly looking for. Besides the Berkeley, there's another.
So
outside.
this whole thing's filled with rails.
Yeah, of course.
Christian.
And then he rides a mountain bike and doesn't grind fucking anything anymore.
He still rides his BMX.
I know, but
And he actually said that he's had this itch lately. He's staying at my house not too long ago, and he had an itch that he was like, dude, I've been looking at spots again and not like looking past them, like wanting to
really?
film another part. And I'm like, oh yeah.
Christian did some big ass shit, dude. This is the one that I need to make this. You wanted to do this one a long time ago.
Yep. And I was sketched out about that fence afterwards. Did he cut it out or did he blast into it?
I cut the fence out. Fuck that fence. When I went and rode it, I
Yeah.
cut the thing out.
Oh, did you hanger it or something like
The
that?
other one. There's
Yeah.
3
Oh,
different
yeah.
ones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's handled some really good setups.
Thanks.
And all the
Shout
ideas-
out to Christian for letting me live a whole bunch of this. I always
Yeah.
enjoyed shooting the fucking stunts. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, you know, like everyone has their own.
Christian didn't ride bikes. He did stunts at a point in
Right.
life. Like he wasn't riding. This
Yeah.
is what he was doing. Like in between was
I always
like
wondered
looking
that,
for the
'cause
spots.
I always see him do like the gnarliest stuff, and I was like, does he just like ride on a daily
was
basis?
a Rob
No,
Wise.
he
I
would
only
film
did
people
bangers.
and then like find crazy
Yeah.
shit to do. This was so sick.
So good.
That's so great. Yeah, that's
And
like
that's it. This is,
And-
Matt Behringer opened that one up. Another cool history
Yep.
lesson. That's
wild.
talk
too.
about that is the best school for rails in the whole world I've ever been to. There's like 10 good setups at that school, and Christian got them all rideable. It was like no one was going to that school for so long, and he's like, why don't I just make all the rails good? Went there one night and it was
Yeah.
back on.
It was cool when I was in Maryland. I feel like in all of Baltimore County, a lot of the schools are. Oh, this is sick. Too.
Yeah.
This is so.
So talk
nuts.
about modding. He put grip tape on that to slow it down a little bit.
Yeah, yeah.
He'll make the spot like because it was way too fast.
But how did he even know that? Did he try it first?
Because he did that ice first, and he's like,
Oh,
"I'm not
okay.
going
Oh,
like
okay.
you're going to
I'm
be
not
going,
going
way too
backwards for
fast
that."
backwards." So he put a little bit of
Because
grip tape on it, I think.
Imagine like.
I think that's the one he-
Imagine
yeah.
trying to find like. There's no like finding the baby bear. Like the just right
Yeah,
kind of
yeah.
amount of that. You're like, well, I could put this on. It might make me stick and flip back onto my head and neck and whatever. Like,
Yeah, modding so
or-
many spots though. You know, it's like how
Yeah, I guess.
you
After a while,
notice
you just
everything
learn.
with rails.
Yeah.
He knows like the little bit
Yeah.
of grip tape to put on there.
And that's I was
That
gonna-
is
That is
edgy.
huge, dude.
I was
That
gonna bring
Not
that up.
rail, but ledge.
Is it what
Yeah.
is the last one? Oh yeah. Well, this isn't. Well, it is. Now we're small. Sorry,
Jeez,
sorry, boys.
man.
There we
Look
go.
at that.
Forever.
That's, yeah, it's such a.
I like
wild-
just a random dude walking by.
Yeah, he was not afraid to crank at some
Gee.
setups too.
Mm-mm.
And there's another rail lord filming.
Oh, Thompson.
Rob.
Oh, Rob Wise. God.
Yeah.
Yeah, Rob Wise is. He was on my list of.
He
top,
is, he
top
is.
5.
Yeah,
Um,
dude, the list, man.
yeah.
Rob Wise is on there. You missed the banger.
Well,
So, but just
But-
like,
but it's
while
not a
we're on the
handrail.
topic of-
I-
yeah,
it's a rail. It's not up for hands though.
Well, it's for something. They messed up. They made it too
wild.
small.
Yeah,
Ra-
that's all.
That was
Rested.
awesome.
I drove by that spot yesterday and thought of this. Or not yesterday, 2 days
RIP.
ago.
They put normal people handrails on
Yeah.
it. I like the little mini human handrails they had. Those were so sick. You could take them out and move them and change the setups. It was like the best spot in the world.
I think like modding a spot is totally fine if. I mean, it's totally up to you. It's like what's going to satisfy you. You know, do you want to make it too easy or too hard? I think there is a lot of satisfaction in like playing it as it lies.
Yeah.
Or like if you use a board or something, if you find that at the spot, I feel like that's sometimes for me a little more satisfying than like bringing something there and bringing like machines and things, you know, I don't know, bringing
there's-
stuff to cut. There
yeah.
is, I don't know, there's, for me at least, there's no like hard rule, you know, like that's whack or that's cool. But when push comes to shove, it's dedication, and you still have to do the trick, and the trick is going to be gnarly
Yeah.
when you do it,
Yeah.
you know? So I think
You don't lose respect for
yeah, the
somebody,
whole
yeah.
modding thing. I know there's a lot of different schools of thought of that, and like
I feel like the East
There's-
Coast thinks one way, the West Coast will
In a
build whatever
way,
they
yeah.
want, and you're in the
Yeah.
middle. So you're
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
it's kind
In
of
a
Albert,
way,
Albert will
'cause
back me up on this one. We've had conversations with people where they said that schools are not real spots.
oh,
It
come
gets
on.
crazy,
And
dude.
it's like-
When I
and
was
it's
just in
like,
Philly,
come
I
on.
was
You're
trying to
like,
find a
what?
board for Chase D to get this clip. It would have made it so easy, and they were all like, "Nah," and I was like, "Oh yeah, I forgot we're in the East Coast."
Yeah.
And there was, I was like, "We can put some dirt right here."
Yeah.
And they're
But
like,
if you
don't
can-
touch the dirt.
If you can
Okay.
do it, if you can do it without the board, you should. But if you can't do it, you need. You know, there's so many.
Yeah.
Just as you said, there's so
cares?
many. But then you
Do
get
what you wanna do.
like a Mastroni who is literally creating spots that will do not exist in the real world.
Yes.
You know,
But
like
that also I respect the time and vision that he had to make those happen.
Yeah.
And of course, you know, maybe sometimes they don't give a disclaimer like, oh, this doesn't actually exist, or you don't have to, I don't know, you don't always have to give the full story, but
Yeah.
it is nice to know sometimes.
What's
But I guess I've thought about it differently as I've grown up. I'm a little less like purist now, and a little more like, man, you came up with that idea. That was your brainchild. You did the work and probably spent the money to make it happen.
Yeah.
Like,
respect.
and you still did it, and it was still gnarly, and there were still consequences. Like, cool.
It's like getting mad at somebody for building a
but yet at the
quarter
same
pipe at a
time-
park and then doing a
At the
trick on
same
it.
time, if I'm riding, if
No,
I'm riding with
exactly.
someone, if I'm riding with someone like you were, like out on the East Coast, and they're like, no, man, like we don't do
I'm
that.
like, that's
I'd be
cool.
like,
That's what you do.
Dennis,
That-
get out.
Yeah, I was like, that's cool. I like
Yeah.
that. That's
Yeah.
that's your guys' thing.
And I wouldn't look down upon someone for that too, because I totally understand it, and I've had that mindset. At
I just
times,
think too the amount of times I've done stuff and something made it so hard, and you could have just fixed it so easy, no one would have ever known, and it was just like, wow, it just like makes it such a better spot by putting some dirt on a curb or something. Like I don't know.
What I do appreciate is when people like Bondo runways and stuff like that, because I have done that a little bit, but for the most part, I usually just take dirt that's nearby, especially if I'm messing with like nollie stuff, because I don't want any severe bumps, at least like when I'm nollieing onto a rail. And so I take that, like just a little bit of dirt, and pack it almost like a dirt jump, and that's where I feel fortunate to be a bike rider.
Yeah.
Because skaters can't really get away with that
No.
often. They have to like actually Bondo stuff, and yeah, I guess what I appreciate when someone opens up a spot. The rare occasion where someone ruins a spot after they did something, I think is super whack. But,
Yeah.
but that's again someone's own kind of personal thing. My thing is, if I modded a spot and I made it better or made it rideable, I'd love to do what I want to do on it, but I'd also love to like let everyone else ride it afterwards too.
for sure.
Kind of like that's my train of thought.
Going back to the rail yesterday, is Nathan uncapped that rail,
Yeah.
and just because I think he just wanted to ride it.
Yeah.
Like literally he's not filming anything.
I
There
thought
was
that was,
no,
I thought that
like,
was super cool and super pure.
And it
You're
was
just
no
like,
small feat. I mean, it probably took 20 or 30 minutes to uncap that in a very, very quiet neighborhood. So
Yeah.
shout out to Nathan.
probably burned through a whole wheel.
L
or two.
Strand.
Yeah,
We'll get to the denims clip on this as well.
Crazy.
Damn.
Yeah.
He's
Too
so
much.
sick.
So Elstrand's an interesting one, because I watched this clip and I was like, that is really crazy and also dangerous, especially this last part.
Yeah.
Because when you're going into tires, like look at the abyss that your front wheel could fall into before you did the 180
Yeah.
bar. But I was like, it's funny because Eric is so talented and so good. He kind of made it look not as dangerous as it really is.
Yeah.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like he's just in this too. Like,
That's just,
that when I watched that clip, I was like, that opens up a new can,
yeah.
like, and there you see clips like that come along once in a while where you're just like, yeah, it's a new level,
Doesn't
that's
even
that's
make
so
sense.
crazy. Yeah, and I love stuff like that too, because
Albert, can you do that?
I can't even really relate. I can relate to it, but
You've tried.
yeah, I'm like,
I like the fact that you tried.
yeah. I love clips where you're like, I would like to do just a portion of that. Like,
Yeah.
I'd love to do like a hang 5 toothpick or something, or
And we'll go
anything like that.
Denim's clip. Well, first we might as well just show the versus van is fucking sick. He has a feature on that Hoonigan channel too.
Oh, really?
For his van, yeah.
This is rad because Denim. I remember when he was filming for this whole edit.
Yo,
He
he's
literally
such a
could
little
have
savage.
slid on his ass or something. He's just like, fuck
he
it.
just took it. Yeah, that's great.
I love it.
I love. So he was filming for this, and he obviously went all over to film for it. But he came through like the Chicago Midwest. I know he has some Milwaukee clips in here, and Chicago clips and stuff. And I remember his hearing, maybe through Maloof or someone or Stark, hearing kind of his mentality through this, like what do I do for a video part? Like it's like has handrails and stuff like that. And he literally, his goal was just kind of dude like all the craziest shit he could think of, and just not, but not really have like a trick list sort of, but he's just like, yeah, everything I find, I'm just gonna kind of no excuses and jump on it sort of thing. And I'm sure at a certain point that gets to not be an option.
It seems like it seems like he doesn't.
You have to appreciate bike riding for being bike riding, and
Yeah.
I obviously know from experience that there are times where you just got to be happy like manualing down the street. But I also like kind of could relate to the mindset he was in, and it reminds me of the mindset I was in when I was filming, say, for Grounded.
Yeah.
I was just like, fuck it, wherever we go. Like, I mean, I was calculated for sure, but I was like, I don't want to
destroy.
Well, I just don't. Yeah, I don't want to pass stuff up.
Yeah.
I just don't. I'm sick of passing stuff up. I'm probably going to be in these towns for 1 or 2 days. Just want to get it done.
Makes sense.
Good mentality.
Yeah, this is like So incredible. Especially that second one, man.
Yeah.
Like, I mean,
So does
the first one? The first one to me makes sense. The second one to me just seems like your wheel is for sure gonna somehow pinch your back wheel, and I don't know, man. It's incredible.
So does denims look more dangerous than L strands?
For sure.
Yeah.
It looks, even though, you know,
It's just the speed, I think.
It's apples and oranges.
I think it's just the speed.
It's apples and oranges, but he made, you know, Eric's was like kind of slow and controlled, and this is just like,
Yeah, it just looks like it's chaotic.
yeah. And that's such an awkward grind.
Yeah. Look at the front.
And what a
end.
unicorn of a spot.
That's what I'm
Like,
saying. Like, has he ever done an over Smith in a, or like a over crook in a
Over
roller
crook,
coaster
yeah.
before? He's like, all right, 5 kinks. I'm trying this as soon as I get the feeble down the
Right.
first one.
I was wondering the same
I
thing.
think I feel like Denham's such a savage. He probably
Yeah.
the first time he's ever done that.
Yeah.
more,
He's
just
locked
more
in,
speed,
pulled it.
less out.
And that's the interesting thing about like roller coaster rails and 60/40 rails is that they're so rare.
You're kind of doing it when you do it.
Yeah. I feel like every time I do a 60/40, I'm like relearning it in my mind. Yeah. So, and he came out good.
Yeah.
Oh man. Like this, it's just,
Like that.
that's
yeah,
just
it was
poetry. Like that
yeah.
whole clip was just so great. And you can just
Fighting it
imagine,
the
you
entire
can just
time.
imagine how he felt when he was rolling away. And that's another thing I was going to mention too about rails, and that there's sometimes where, and I'd like to get your guys' opinion on this. I'm very picky, obviously, about run-ups, especially for certain tricks, but I'm sometimes just as picky about run-outs, not only because I've gotten broke off with bad run-outs, but that feeling after you've done something down a rail and you're riding away, just like through a parking lot or down the block or whatever, like a nice clean ride out where there's like no worries is so much more that's so much more satisfying to me than you did something crazy, something scary, and then boom, you got to worry about stopping or worry about like slamming into this wall or whatever. Like I know like David Grant, for example, does like super crazy grinds and like straight into a wall or straight, you know, the worst runouts, and sometimes Denim too, and some other guys. But yeah, to me, I'm a little picky about that. I love that moment or that feeling of riding
The cruise
from
away.
it.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't
That's
think
a good feeling.
Yeah.
I don't think the few times that I've like ever done something that I was like had a wall afterwards, I thought the wall was going to be further away. Like my mind was so focused on the trick, and when I land and it's like a hard landing, I'm like still in that moment, and I'm like, oh holy fuck.
Yeah.
You know, like where
Yeah.
like I thought the wall was like 30 feet further away than it was, you know,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
it's like right
It
in
just
front of me and
came
slammed
up.
it. Yeah, you
Yeah.
know, so I feel like I don't know. I haven't really experienced it too much, and then just like get blinded. So,
Yeah, it's made me turned
yeah.
off from doing stuff before,
Yeah.
just because of that factor.
I mean, you said that when you were talking with the brakes that there was been already a scenario or two where the brakes made a difference.
Yeah, I think like when you're so focused on getting a trick on a rail and there's a wall right after, it's super big way to just be like, I'm good. I'll find a better one.
Yep.
Because you just overthink the like getting squirrely and smashing your head into a wall.
Right.
Like I can't really think of too many setups that I've rode that like go into walls.
Yeah.
Like trying to think of that feeling. I'm like,
Yeah.
I probably have, but I can't think of it.
Yeah, it's not a good feeling because you already
It's cool looking.
You've
like
already
denim,
committed.
just
You've kind of
do
already
that.
committed and completed the meat of the task. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
Like,
but that clip with Denim when he just blasts the fence and goes underneath it, like
Yeah.
that's so cool.
It looked like he
Yeah,
was
it
like,
is.
it's like
It
a
is.
like
Yeah.
so sick
Yeah.
to watch.
but he's
and
such
same
a
with Christians when he did the gaps rail
And just slid into the fence,
Santee,
yeah.
yeah. He just
Denim looks like he's like an action figure though. Like he was like he was like, oh, this will make this clip better.
yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
like
I
he
think
didn't
he was
look
just
like
stuck on the bike and he was like, oh shit. He was kind of
maybe.
leaned back. and
I like
couldn't
my
do anything.
version more.
That he
was
wanted
just
to
like,
do
yeah,
that?
this clip
I
will be
don't
better.
know.
Yeah.
maybe,
Yeah.
maybe.
I was looking for this fucking Calvin clip. Oh, there he is. Oh god, that was so fucking steezy.
Snaggletooths are a rare one too.
Yeah. Here, I'll play this one. You looking? I saw you look at your time. You trying to leave?
I got to bounce at some point.
Okay.
But I could always
You can
probably,
always.
probably around 1. I got like 30 minutes, so
Okay.
we're good.
I mean, we've been nerding out for a while.
Yeah, I love watching these videos. I'm just like, fuck.
So
Lots
good.
of people I go ride with them.
See, that's. I was looking for the straight over crook.
What is this? Intervention?
This is champagne.
Oh, yeah. Might be an intervention.
Is it?
I don't know.
Man. Yeah, I remember seeing this, but
Is
I'm
banger
also,
having
a little bit
intervention?
of
You're
having
right.
some spot
Shit.
envy.
Okay.
I know this is fun
Well,
to watch all this stuff.
Maybe
Yeah.
I'll be able to get it in there, but Nathan is another one. I mean, fuck, watch any Nathan part, really.
This is my pick for modern day rail god.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
Everybody's,
Honestly.
I would assume. What were some other ones on there? We had Alex Donachie on there. We have Hoder for pegless stuff.
I had Harrington as well.
Harrington. Fuck, let me find the Harrington clips. We got to look at the overgrind.
But you know
Harrington
what's
did some of the craziest shit.
What's so interesting about all of it, or a lot of it, is that there's so many setups like this. Like, obviously there's so many skate parks now with rails at them, and you can practice rails all day long. I was just thinking back to like when I did my first rail. I don't think I had ever ridden a skate park rail, so to speak, that it was maybe sort of like an A-frame kind of setup, or like a up across down sort of rail. I don't think I had ever ridden like a perfect platform stairs rail before I jumped on my first one, right? And now they're at every park.
Yeah.
Which is awesome and great, and obviously we've seen progression because of it. But there are still setups, and there will always be setups where there's no foam pit for, or there's no warm up for, and I always think that those are really special. And there's like a couple gapped rails that come to mind personally, but really, hopefully you're gonna pull up the clip soon. But Harrington had one.
I think it's
too.
this
That's one of
video.
my favorite rail clips
To the
ever.
very end.
But there's so many things. There's these setups that just they're, and you could also go say the same for gaps and all this other stuff. But there are some setups where you just there is no foam pit. There's no practice. Like, you have to envision
Yeah.
it happening. And with rails, there's so many variables. Like, how is it going to grind? Are you going to be leaned perfectly? Or are you going to be leaned to one side or the other? Can you afford to be with what whether you're need to come onto another rail afterwards, or go for the thread the needle or whatever it is. So it's always so cool to me that there's some setup still, and there always will be, that there's just no warm up for, and you just have to have that experience, confidence, and kind of like vision to do it, and creativity some of the times.
Hell yeah.
And that you have to be there for like a day or two, because then you can't fetch out.
Or someone you need to be getting kicked out at that moment.
Yeah,
'Cause that's
exactly.
pushed me down a
Yeah.
number of rails
Yeah.
before, in a good way.
This is not the clip, but this is a very valid clip.
X-up pedal crook.
Yeah.
Yeah. Insane.
Yeah. And it's funny
Nobody's
when we
done
talk
ever.
about
Manual X-up grind.
yeah. I think I was there for that.
What else we got? Oh, I lived this one.
Oh, dude, he was on a mission this summer or this.
And every time he's on his pedals,
Yeah.
dude.
Speaking of fuck,
But I remember we were actually at, like, before or after he
this
did
is
this.
the
Oh,
this
yeah.
is the yeah
Yeah, that was the same day.
that you were talking about.
Yep. I remember we were at the bar during this time period, and I think he was
I don't know why I
visiting, or
fast
we
forward,
were
sorry.
together somewhere, and he was like,
It's weird they ran
he was like,
this.
he was
It's after
basically
the
like,
start
show
of
me
this.
the craziest stuff.
Yeah. All right. Here we go. I mean, Sean Max rail to rail. This Van Homan's like Philly rail manual, not the college one, but the
Yep.
the
Yeah,
and
the
the
City
the
Hall.
bonk to pegs, and like this is top 10 rail clip of all time in my opinion. I want to say top
Yeah.
5, but I don't want to
Yeah.
go too hard. But
because that list is crazy.
Yeah.
But let's just say it's fucking amazing.
After seeing it in person too.
fuck, you lived this?
Yeah, not when
Oh.
it happened, but he took me to the spot afterwards. Man, and to come like
How unhappy this rail is. Look at all the fucking
yeah.
he hits, and look at the fear of the rail just like
Yep.
shaking off of it.
and the shrapnel, like
Yeah.
the paint dust, just fuck, man. And he
Dude,
couldn't
it's
have.
so fucked.
He did like 100%.
Yeah, just like you were talking about.
Yeah, just dink dink. He's done. Man, that must have felt so incredible. And you don't really get second tries at that.
No.
You might get one other one if you hit pegs and actually land solid and maybe jump into the stairs and luckily don't
at-
roll your ankle.
There's
Look-
another rail bout.
That is
Yeah,
like-
that's what I was gonna say. Look at that motherfucker.
Connor, the overgrind
yeah,
king.
Look at the
Yeah.
fucking lord of the
Overgrind
overgrind
king,
right
man.
there.
Yeah,
The one he did at El Cap.
yeah.
Connor, that's someone I had just in on the top
It's
of my
always
head with
interesting
rail
when you,
bosses.
when
Yeah.
you think about rail riding, because you hate to like pigeonhole people into that, like that kind of rider, but at the same time, I mean, it's obviously it's a compliment and it's nice, but like I look at dudes like you, Dennis, and Harrington, and people like that are so good at bike riding all around that like, but you guys have like really paved the way as far as handrails go too. But you're just, like that's just one of the many things you end up excelling at.
I think it's just another fun thing to be able to ride.
Yeah.
It's like if there's a rail, it's nice to be able to have fun on it.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that's sort of like, it's nice. It's nice that still exists, because I feel like it kind of always has. Like Jay Miron,
Dude, the pocket to rail and his
Yeah.
heel banger,
Yeah.
that goes in the list of top
Yeah.
whatever we're saying, just
And,
badass clips of the time.
people like when the name first comes to mind, some people are like, "Oh, vert rider," because he had, like he rode vert and whatever, but he rode everything.
He just
killed
rode everything.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
damn,
Same with
how
you
was
and
that
Harrington.
clip?
Even like you though,
think-
like you're a rail boss and you're kind of known for being a crazy rail, like just changing the game with that. But like, I remember the first footage I saw of you was in like Metro Jams.
Oh yeah,
You know,
or maybe like
stuff
front brake stuff, like sub
maybe that
box
wasn't the
or
first, but I would see you like video parts riding rails and in the streets, and then you'd be at a Metro Jam doing like
because we always
crazy
rode,
park
we always
stuff.
kind of rode everything growing up, and summertime was like we could go in the streets and hit rails because there was no snow, and then wintertime we're like indoors for 6 months, so you just ride skate parks.
Yeah,
This
Yeah.
clip.
over XO.
Jeez.
He almost
Yeah.
did a bar to XO grind on that Metro Jam rail. So
Look at
close.
tiny Sean Organi there too.
Yeah,
That's
baby
awesome. What a good assist.
Sean. Yeah.
So sick.
Harrington.
Yeah, not scared.
I mean, fucking Rob Wise. So many, dude. We could sit here
Rob.
for fucking.
Yeah, Rob's one of
Hours.
those dudes.
I'm gonna say, go ahead. Sorry.
that
Go
he's done so many setup specific things. That
Talk about like no foam pit style. Like
Yeah.
the stuff he does is like you
You
only
just
can
gotta
practice
know.
it in the street at that spot.
you just got to know. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like even, I
Takes
mean,
time in the street.
this is like by today's standards, like going pegs over hard 180 is like not that crazy. But that was him. Didn't like that was
No one
like
was doing that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was him.
Yeah.
That was solely Rob.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah,
at that
he
point.
thought of it
Like,
and he did it
Yeah.
before people. He didn't have anyone to watch do that
Yeah.
really,
Yep.
like on a real rail. I was gonna say in my, like you guys were talking about like top craziest things ever. The 180 crook Nathan did down Walnut.
Yeah.
The big El Toro. Like
Yeah.
to me, that's just one of the craziest, scariest, last things I'd ever want to do.
So why
Just 'cause
not? Why not?
no, that's in
No, it's in Grounded.
Etnies.
Yeah.
The not grounded, but the new one.
Fuck.
Oh, is it?
chapters.
Chapters.
Yeah.
So many good videos. It's crazy. Like
Fuck,
when you just go and on a video
Yeah.
Yeah.
With the black,
tear
the
like
black
this.
hole.
Oh man,
of
it's
it.
just endless good riding.
So there's a school of thought.
rail guy.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
I know. There's a school of thought that
All right, I'm not going riding today. We're just gonna watch
I know, right?
all these guys shred.
there's a school of thought that like backwards crook is in some ways easier or safer than backwards pegs, which I understand. But I
Depends on who you are.
Yeah, I always did more backwards pegs than I did.
Yeah, you were
backwards
doing
crook.
huge backwards pegs.
But
Still
I kind of
do.
understand because one of the big fears of a backwards grind is like throwing your front wheel over or your back wheel over. But I feel like when you're in a backwards crook, you're kind of
slow it
pinching
down. Yeah.
When you connect, you're sort of sandwiching or you're pinching your bike onto the rails. There's not as much like wiggle room there. There still is. You can still get worked, but yeah, I just wondered if you had done both and kind of had like one preference or another. Like
I'm about
if
the
you were-
same
if you were
shittiness
straight
with
out-
both of them.
Okay, I was gonna say if you were straight out of the car and someone was like, you have to go down this rail backwards one way or the other, would you do pegs or crook?
I don't
'Cause I think
stay in the car, personally.
It depends on like which one I've done recently. Like
I think Corey
been
and
definitely
maybe
doing more of
Nathan-
them.
I think Corey, maybe Nathan, and I think Seth Kimbrough. I think they were all like
Yeah.
backwards crook, and I was like, I
Fucking
get what you're
Kimbrough
saying.
with the pegs, the EXO pegs, hard one.
Tinez though,
Yeah.
backwards grind master. Like he's,
Oh, yeah.
he's so good at those.
Bliss.
Yep.
Same thing. He's like, no, it was good because you pop on, pop off, and it's perfect. It's just such a monster.
I could see how doing that same trick, because actually backwards rails, when they're too low, they're scary.
Yeah.
So I could see how.
Like doing that scary, but like, yo, you're a legend, but back
Okay.
off.
I regret saying that
And I
now.
was like, I wanted to say something about it, so I'm glad you did. It's like, I hate that angle.
Well, I was being positive.
Amazing.
Shout out to the first guy to ever do an
Yeah,
ice pick
John
right
Bova.
there.
Yeah, there he
Look,
is.
there he is.
Yeah.
Look at him. And no shout out to Mike.
But shout out to Mike Missouri. He kills it. Not to that angle though. No,
Just
thank you.
joking.
No, thank
love,
you.
Love Manzari. One other thing. So this is a broad topic. Killian Roth's latest video part.
Yes.
So aside from, obviously I could show the feeble and I could show the clips. We've shown a lot of clips so far, so I don't feel the need to really do that. But YouTube marked it as dangerous activity.
Wow.
So the first
what?
So the first so if you go and you like fucking steal a car and jump off a bridge and fucking post it on YouTube, you can't make money off of that. They don't want to like promote dangerous activity. Like if you go smoke if you smoke a bunch of weed at the beginning of your video and have booze and swear,
So it's like they're
it
censoring
gets
stuff.
essentially gets demonetized. And there's two different levels. So there's monetized, and then there's limited, and then there's demonetized. So limited essentially is like brands like Coca-Cola and stuff like that. They don't want to be associated with dangerous activity or partying or something like that. So they'll be on the green. But some brands, they're like, oh yeah, we don't give a shit. Like you can action, crazy stuff or smoking weed, whatever. We don't care. So they'll run ads on that. Killian's part got marked as limited for dangerous stunts and activities, and
Interesting.
and it hurt the video a whole bunch. The first 2 days I woke up and expected it to be over like 20K, and it was at 4, and I was like,
whoa,
holy shit. And I realized it was
It's
limited.
like what they did with the summer boogie thing too. Like it just really fucks
but theirs
you
is
over.
like because of the boobs and the butts and stuff on
But it's
there.
like similar thing,
Yeah.
like where they're like not pushing it how they normally would.
So I was pretty scared for a bit, and I did the review, like, because you can get like a manual review by a human being, and it still got denied.
wow.
And I was like, I watched the video like 8 times, like trying to look at it from like a different position. Like, all right, he falls on his head right here, or kind of like he kind of hits his face. There's not a single drop of blood. It's not. He pulls the clip later in the video, blah blah blah. And
What
I ended
a
up like,
very interesting line.
It's gonna make a new player if they keep doing that because people are gonna be like, screw this.
Yeah.
Because
Right.
TikTok's
But
bullshit too. They always put my stuff. I try to make a TikTok and everything I put up, they kept taking down and told me they're gonna kick me off just for clips. I was like,
for being
post-
dangerous.
Yeah, like the same stuff
That's
I post on
crazy.
Instagram.
Yeah.
I was like, fuck TikTok.
And I started to get all existential about it because I
Yeah.
was like, dude, this is like bad for BMX.
no,
If
it's just
like-
gonna make, because skating's the same thing in our industries. Like they're gonna eventually will just use a different player. If that's,
Yeah, but
or
like
it could
keep
make
doing
us like rebellious again. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like
I guess.
we're the cool
But
thing
if
again
nobody
because,
sees it-
because it's like it could be, not, it will never push it into the underground like it once was.
Yeah.
But yeah, it could almost be like a kid growing up like only sees TikTok or only sees YouTube. Like, oh, I've never seen stuff like this before.
Yeah.
Kind of like the first time you heard like music where they swear or anything like that, or like a movie that you should like an whatever R-rated movie or something. And you're like, oh, this is kind of
Yeah.
cool because it's a little
Yeah.
bit forbidden or whatever. I mean, I'm just
No,
playing,
I mean-
devil's advocate, but you're right, and I've actually haven't thought about that either.
Yeah.
And it is such a fine line, isn't it? Because it's like it's not Killian's intention to
Yeah.
be like.
maybe because his name was Killian.
I don't know. I never heard of that.
I don't know. Honestly, I didn't.
Yeah.
I've never thought about that.
I know
until this
TikTok's
right
very
then.
the
like
same,
PG or whatever,
Yeah.
but
Yeah,
I wouldn't
yeah.
think
His name was
YouTube's like
Joe.
that.
It'd be okay.
Yeah, maybe.
Because I had Kill in the front in the name.
Have you ever heard of any other BMXers
No, it's
videos?
the first time.
So it must be
Wow.
some.
like
Yeah.
like a straight up video part. There was no weed, no blood,
No.
no gore, no anything.
Maybe
It
the
was-
name Kill just red
Yeah,
flagged
but
it.
yeah, I don't know. So
Could be
in the end, I ended up like talking to like Google support, and supposedly it was like once you get the manual review, it's done.
Wow.
You know, like
Yeah.
And so I just like sat on like whatever like customer support chat for like 2 hours, like bitching basically, and then eventually they turned it back to green
Damn.
after like 2
Interesting.
days or
Man.
something.
Interesting.
But it was super scary, weird. Like imagine if like
That's cool.
There's-
that,
there's
like
so many
because if like
things.
if Vans your video part and it just gets demonetized as for just being dangerous, they're like, oh well, it doesn't get views. Like
Right.
Why
And
That's where I think
and
it would
then-
just
and then-
another
and then
player
you
would pick this all up, like how Spotify is like now picking up things. Like it'd
Videos.
just be Spotify, like how people are moving to
You
the
could-
next player.
And then you could get super philosophical about that because you could look at statistics and be like, well, no, if you had a video that had car driving in it, like
That's-
the
yeah.
deaths for car driving are,
Yeah.
astronomical if you really look at the statistics.
It is weird.
and
It is super
You
weird.
could get, you could go down a huge rabbit hole about that, but that
Yeah.
is interesting.
It
Hopefully
is
they
cool.
don't, ding things too much in the future.
So, rails,
Yeah.
grind them.
Yeah, well, I just want to. Well, like no matter what, like when you first hit me up about this, I was like thinking about how incredible it's been to, and still to this day, like people send me pictures of rails both close to my home and halfway around the world that like
That's amazing.
they think that I might think are cool or whatever. I do, you know, it is kind of funny because there's times where like you go to a town you've never been to and the locals are showing you around, which is always so awesome. And sometimes they might take you to like the most dead man impossible thing that like
looking up
you,
like what
you,
the
like
fuck
not
do you
only
think
like
I'm gonna
would you
do
not
here?
want to do it on your craziest day, but like you kind of want to dictate your own, you know, sort
Yeah.
of thing. But you know, it's always cool to see, and I know they usually mean the best. You know, they don't want to they don't want to see you die. You know, they just want to see you do that thing they've been wondering is possible the whole time. But I do have to just say a huge thank you to like everyone who's ever showed me a cool piece of pipe, a cool setup, a cool spot, because I will never unsee that, and I'll always be driving around, and no matter how old I am or what happens, like I'm always looking at spots and the rails and stuff like that, and I always think that's cool, and it's almost like it's addicting in a way, but it's also rad because I find setups all the time that maybe like I find ones that I'm into, of course, because those ones like light up in my eyes as soon as I see them, but then I find them for other people too, like, hey, I might not be into this, but you can do something I can't down this. Like I think that's always a really
You want to be grinding
really
a
cool
handrail
thing.
when you're like 80?
It would be cool. It would be cool to do, you know, if like the 80th birthday kind of thing or something like that. You know
I
what
can see you doing that.
I don't know. You know, it would be really cool. I think grinding anything.
I'm gonna hold you
would
to
be
it.
awesome,
Kachinsky,
but
you're turning 80 next month.
If I can do a rail when I'm 40, you can do one when
Gap to
you're 80.
rail when you're 40. That's sick.
You can do one you can do one when you're 80.
Yeah,
So.
and I guess kind of I'd like to get your guys' take on this, but I think moving forward, what are we going to see? I certainly hope that the kind of like the tabletop in a way, like there's certain timeless things. I hope that the just long or scary double peg like never goes away. And I don't think it will.
I don't think so.
I always think that's cool, or just the rail that's just hard to grind, period. But where I think it's going to go, which is really exciting, is like seeing, say, that L-Strand clip we talked about earlier where he does the hang 5 whiplash and stuff like that. I also see like people balancing, talking about long tooth hangers earlier, like people balancing a tooth hanger down like some of those rails where you're like, look at this long ice pick.
Yeah, the new ice pick.
People who get, because how dialed nose wheelies are now, and how dialed, I mean, we've seen long hangers already. So I think like a balanced one down like a rail with some consequences would be pretty sick. And then who knows? You know, we'll see where people take it, and see what the setups dictate. And that's what's really cool too, because there's so many setups that just dictate the trick by itself.
For sure.
And there'll always be that creativity. So
Thank you, Brian.
Yes,
You're the man, dude.
You're the man. Rails.
When's your next trip to San Diego?
I don't know yet.
Okay.
Not soon enough, but
All right.
soon.
Well, you let me know.
I will.
Get the full podcast.
You're the man. Thanks for
Absolutely.
coming on
Thank you, sir.
Unclicked, dude.
Thank you guys for still doing this.
That was fun.
And,
yeah.
You should
Sure,
drop that
Killian.
whole timeline for people to watch. Just the 6 hours of rail stuff that you came
Oh,
up,
I
because there was a
know,
lot
right?
of dudes we shouted out that
I
we
know.
didn't get to
Dan
watch.
Holler was in there too.
Yeah.
The Brazilian dude I
didn't
saw
even
in
talk
there.
about Sean Burns.
Macon.
Duarte,
Burns.
Burns. Fuck. I hit up Burns for his list of people.
Yeah.
Dude, and it's like
Yeah.
it's endless, and obviously
Yeah, you ask one person, they're gonna have 5 different people.
Yeah,
like,
yeah. And I had
there's
Burns.
rail
I
gods
have
out
Burns
there.
on my list. We just didn't fucking get to it.
But we got to
there's
speak
too
to
much,
someone
so
that is probably on every list. So
that is true.
Kachinsky, you the man. Thank you.
Rail
So
Lord.
you're up there with Van
Rail Lord.
Hoven and the other ones we talked about that are on everyone's list. So you the
Thanks,
man.
I
Thank you.
appreciate it.
Thanks for
Thank you.
changing the game. Yeah.
Why is that going to take so long?
What's up?